Okay, it is Monday, January 9th, 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. The time is 7:01 p.m. We will call the EDC meeting to order. I think this might be the earliest we've ever called the meeting to order.
Yeah, online works for us, guys.
Yeah, 2023 starting off with a bang, right?
It helps when there aren't margaritas.
Now.
Does it help a lot though?
Right, exactly. Exactly. So from the EDC, we have myself, Renee Deli, Kevin Snyder, Julie Oakley, and Steve Warshaw. On the line is also Maggie Kinsella, who will hopefully be a new member of the EDC soon in a few days. And we have Maria joining us from the Town Planning and Economic Development Department. Maria, welcome, newbie to the municipality. So we're lucky to have you here. And Alyssa is on as a guest tonight too. I know that she has, she always likes to listen to our meetings, but she has some items on here that she's particularly interested in. So it's great to have her as well. Hopefully we'll get a guest appearance from Peter. We haven't seen him in the last 2 or 3 meetings, I think, even the in-person sessions, we haven't seen him. So there must be another competing meeting or a game that's it's taking precedence over the.
Oh, the indoor track was at Wheaton tonight.
Oh, that's probably where he is. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so why don't we get started? A couple things, I'll just review the agenda quickly. Maria's here just as an introduction to the EDC and some discussion. For the folks on the EDC, you know, we partner pretty closely with Paul, and we're certainly looking to continue that relationship with Maria too. So Maria, we really are excited to have you. And you've been a topic of our conversation in many meetings where we're like, is it too soon to reach out? And then I think when I did reach out, you weren't starting till the next week, and we thought you were already in the seat. So it is great to have you here. We'll talk about the liquor license review process. I did send that out earlier today. I have not received any updates back from town council on that. So we'll just go through the version that we have just to get everybody up to speed, because I don't think anybody was on the EDC when we first developed this, or the board at that point, because I think my first draft is from April of this year. Wait, not this year, April of last year. And then I had a version, I think in May or June, probably May. So it's good for all of us to revisit. Well, it's good for me to revisit it and all of us to review it, since we are critical members of that process. And then we'll just talk about some business updates. Hopefully, depending on time, we can get to some planning updates, because Maria, that does have, bless you, that does have some relationship to you, and just for us to understand what your priorities are so we can align appropriately to those. We have a host of meeting minutes. I didn't get any out, and I didn't do them from the last meeting. And I just realized that I forgot to post the our video. So I'll get both the videos out as soon as this one's available tonight, and that'll be up on Norton Media Center. So why don't we jump in? Maria, welcome again to our meeting. Thank you so much, and welcome to the town of Norton. We're very happy to have you. And we were fortunate enough to get an update from Kevin as a member of the select board, you know, in the discussion for your appointment. But certainly if you want to provide us with a bit of background of yourself and kind of what some of your expectations are in the first couple months of the role, that would be great.
Awesome, perfect. So hi everyone, my name is Maria de la Fuente. Before working here in Norton, I was in the town of Sharon. I was their planning and engineering specialist, which is the closest thing they had there to a planner. I used to work very closely there with the Economic Development Committee. We had several initiatives to help small businesses and try to promote ecotourism. I spearheaded a lot of marketing initiatives too that I would like to see done here as well. But as a background for Sharon, I was in the process of acquiring actually a bike share system. We got a grant for like $73,000. We're going to do 20 e-bikes. We put another like $20,000 towards marketing. So we're trying to do attract regional tourism to Sharon as a great place to like come and hike and bike. We didn't have many businesses there, so ecotourism was the name of the game. So excited to be here in Norton when there's more things going on. But for Norton, I was looking into a couple of grants for economic development, and that's what I hope to focus in the next couple months. The biggest one is MassWorks. I've been talking with the Water and Sewer Department and their engineers, and we're going to be submitting a request for construction funds for the Elm Street sewer project. So we got design money last year and we're gonna try to get construction money. We're gonna be asking for roughly 4 million, so fingers crossed. We'll hear back on that project around November, so that's kind of the timeline. But if we get sewer in Elm Street, then we could possibly connect Town Hall to it, but we could actually redevelop Reed and Barton a lot easily without, the developers having to pay for sewer. And that would open up a lot of good possibilities for economic development along that street as well. So that's one of them. I'll be asking for money to do technical assistance to small businesses. That's something I was doing in Sharon as well. And when I left, we just got awarded 20,000 to help small businesses redevelop their websites. So they gave us some money and then we would pay a consultant, and the consultant would work directly with the small business owners. So we just connected them. And I think we had enough money for like 6 or 7 businesses, which it's not huge, but it's a start. And that's a program I wanted to start doing every year. Like, I think it's really important to have tangible things that you can show, like this is what we've done and this is how it impacts people. So that's a goal I have for this year as well. And I would like to focus on some marketing aspects. I'm in talks with the Norton Chamber of Commerce, or the Norton Business Association, sorry, and the Chamber of Commerce as well. I would like to try to see if we can develop a website, a regional website for Norton, Foxborough, Mansfield, and Easton to try to attack tourism, sort of like Beaver Fall River. That's my model right now. They have, if you have children and you're looking for a family night out, where can I go? If you're into hiking, these are the best spots. If you want to look for like a date night, this is like the top 3 restaurants. Something like that for the region, I think will be very beneficial. But I still need to talk to other planners, and I'm trying to talk to Fall River to get a scope and a better understanding of what goes into that project. My backup is, if that doesn't work out, I want to try to get marketing funds to try to promote Norton businesses and do like features and, Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, just sort of get the word out. And maybe we can pursue some of the interviews Paul was doing. I'm still trying to get a feel for what's what, but I will be applying for those, submitting my expressions of interest by February. And I hope we'll hear back on whether they're good ideas or not by maybe April. And then once we apply, we'll receive funding maybe in November. So I'll keep you updated throughout the whole process, but those are my objectives. I want to get the word out. I want to do marketing, and I want to try to do tangible assistance as well as much as I can.
No, that would be great, especially promoting the local business.
Mm-hmm.
We have a hashtag. I don't know how widely it's used, but the oh my God, was the hashtag Norton for Biz?
Norton for Biz, like with a Z.
Yeah, with something with it.
I
Yeah,
think.
with a
Let me
Z.
see.
Yeah.
I gotta look it up.
I like that. That's for Facebook, or what platform do you use it for?
I think we're using it on both Facebook and Twitter, and give me another name of one.
Instagram?
I
Yes,
don't
thank
think
you.
we have Instagram.
Not the town, but we do it so we've done it, different EDC members, and then we promoted it on Facebook through the EDC page. I'm just gonna do a search to make sure I'm telling you the right hashtag. Otherwise, I have to go back to meeting minutes. No, it is Norton, hashtag Norton for Biz.
Okay, awesome.
But wait, let me confirm that.
It
Yeah,
is.
I see the EDC. Thanks, Kevin.
It is. I just went on Twitter and I saw flaky crusty pies and
Oh, excellent.
what else was on there? Bridget's.
Yep, Bridget.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was one of the profiles that Paul did.
Nice.
And that's it.
I see the Norton Kayak Company, Kate's Confections, Goat City.
Okay.
Bog Iron was another
Yeah.
business profile, and then the yummy flaky crust pies.
Yeah.
Oh, something really yummy. And then a series of others. So yeah, it's a good one. So consider your promote. And just so you know, Maria, we had conversation with Mike. And he was gonna look into, he said there was some funding available to actually get like window decals that we could put in the businesses around Norton. that had
Okay.
the hashtag on it. I haven't heard back on that. It's been quite a while. There
I'll
was some
double check.
other. Kevin, were you on then? Or Steve, were you on when we talked about this? I don't think so, because I think Cody was on.
I don't think so.
I'll have to
Cody
go back
brought
to
me
my,
into this.
I'll have to, what was that, Steve?
Cody brought me into this.
Yeah, Cody brought you in. Maria, I'll go back to our notes, because I think there were one or two items that Mike was gonna follow up on, but I do remember the window decals, so we could put them, to put them at the businesses, so
Mhm.
that people can promote when they come and go and they actually see it.
Nice.
There, there was some, I know that there was something else too, it's just escaping me right now.
Is it the life science overlay? Because we'll be working with that. I've been reaching out to the consultants and we're trying to set up a contract now to have them come in and write zoning for us for research and development companies and all the life sciences. So that's also going to be good for economic development.
Yeah, it wasn't that, this was just
Okay.
related to that, to promoting the Norton.
Placemaking grant?
No, I have to look.
I'll have to check with Michael.
Yeah.
It's good though. There's so many good things. We can't keep track of them. So that's a good sign.
I know, I just wish I remember what he was following up on.
I can't believe you can't remember it.
I know. Isn't it
Frankly.
surprising? I
Yeah.
usually do remember that stuff, but
Just
was-
rub
he
it
was
in,
following
Kevin, rub it in.
it's okay. You know what? I lost my memory during 2 pregnancies. I fully admit it. But I'll find out. I know it was that, and then I think Paul had a couple takeaways too. That those may be done though, but I'll take a look. I'll be able to find it pretty quickly.
Perfect.
No, that's great. The other thing, can I just ask, does anybody have any questions or comments before I ask mine?
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, Maggie, can I just ask in respect to the grant for the Mass Works for Elm Street specifically? So we have a company that's interested in developing there. Is there a reason why we're looking for a grant to focus just on that? Because it seems more small scope, because there is only that the existing property that can be developed. I don't see the opportunity for additional development there. Like, is there a reason why something for like 140 or 123 wasn't looked at from the perspective of developing water or sewer specifically? Because that seems to be one of the biggest in our conversations with businesses and folks who actually were looking to leave, but luckily were able to stay in town. One of the biggest hurdles seems to be the lack of sewer. So when folks are looking at newer properties, just the cost to put in septic or the things that they would have to do that versus having the ability to tie into a sewer line has always been a challenge and always brought up as something. So I just wonder, like, what's the background and the focus specifically on Elm Street for a property that I thought we had them coming in, and I thought that was part of their budget and plan was to add sewer there. Do you know?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking Maria for that.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry. I thought you were
No,
asking
that's
Maggie.
Thanks. I was like, I have no idea.
Maggie, if you knew that answer, man, I give you big kudos.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
heard
think you
everything.
said Maggie at the beginning because I was
Oh, I did? I
I
thought I
was brought
said
into that too. Yeah.
Sorry. It was
You know,
for
we're
Maria.
trying to get her
I
to
was
join
like,
Renee. Like,
I know,
no,
I
I'm
know.
talking with Maggie a lot.
No, Julie, she already sent the email. She hook, line, and sinker.
I
She's
did,
in
I
it
did.
now.
Now she's like, oh my God, is there a test? Was there some favorite test?
She hasn't been appointed yet. We can't give her anything. She's supposed to back out. Shh.
Well,
Sorry.
I'm not sure why 140 and 123 weren't considered. I can check with the water and sewer department, but I do know that Elm Street was very favorable because the Reed and Barton site is, I think they wanted to do apartments there, and that's a big focus right now for the state. Anything that promotes housing is huge. And also, be higher density housing, which is also, very lacking right now. But the possibility of tying the town hall and future projects in a key area very close to downtown, I think just extending Stewart, that's kind of like a dead zone to my understanding. So there's sewer on like the left and the right side, but there's nothing in the middle. So if we could extend it that way, then it could facilitate future connections towards the downtown. was my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, it makes, like, that area makes sense. It definitely does, but I thought that that was covered under the company that, you know, is in the process of developing the Reed and Barton site. So I just wonder from a town perspective, because you'll see we have many areas that don't have it, specifically along like the 140 corridor. That is a primary, you know, commercial and industrial development area.
Yeah.
Or commercial retail development area. So that was my question. And there's a lot of available land there that would be more advantageous for people to come in to, you know, have some sound economic development if we had a bit more infrastructure there. So, I mean, you know, perhaps there's a potential to continue the expansion. I do think it makes sense for a town hall as well to be tied in. So, you know, if we could bridge that gap, that's great.
Mhm.
But it sounds like that's just a potential. Like, I would hope that plans, I would imagine that would be included in it, right?
Yeah, I know we have, it's called something else, but it's like a wastewater master plan of sorts. And a lot of areas are looked at in detail. I haven't read it myself yet,
Okay,
but I know if that's not mentioned in there, I'm sure there was a reason, but I can ask and I can send you an email following up with that, because if not, that's a great future MassWorks application. is
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
that
and-
area, so.
and we had conversation with the water and sewer department. They came to an EDC meeting in the past to talk
Mhm.
specifically about, you know, what were the long-term plans for
Mhm.
sewer? And I believe at that time they were a little less developed than what we have overall for water and the replacements of pipes and things like that. So I think that's a direct tie-in, right, to development here, not only from perspective of the, you know, commercial and retail, but also of residential properties too.
Okay.
And I can't remember, Kevin, I don't know if you've seen this in front of the board, but the development that's going in behind McDonald's, is that gonna be tied in? I can't remember now, because that's at like 110, is it 110 unit?
Yeah, I think so. I
I
think
think so
so,
too.
because I don't think I could, yeah, it's got to be tied in, because those other properties around there have got to be on sewer, right?
I don't know.
But if it
be
comes up
honest,
that
I-
way, how far does it come down 140, I guess, is a question. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it stopped somewhere around Reservoir Street, but I'm not sure. It's Maria, did they give you a map of where sewer is down now?
No, but that would be a good thing to have.
Yeah, I
don't-
think we have one, but it was outdated. It didn't even include Plain Street, which was one of the more recent projects.
I'll ask Frank tomorrow and I'll see if I can share it with everyone. So we have
Okay,
it.
yeah, that'd be great. Well,
Yeah.
and one reason too, and maybe let's just toggle to that quickly, Julie, on the master plan, right? There's a direct tie-in. I think we have an actual action item
Yep.
that the EDC is assigned in partnership with a couple of these other groups, like the Water and Sewer Commission, and obviously you as well, Maria. But specifically to look at, Julie, help me with this, because my memory.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you,
was like the
Kevin.
future expansion of sewer, and to talk, you know, kind of amongst all of us to make sure that when we're looking at investments that we're taking in, you know, from our point of view, economic development opportunities. So I think it's something that we've struggled with, to be honest, Maria, is mapping out where we feel like infrastructure should go for the betterment of, you know, us as a community, for potential future tax base purposes, things like that. So we've had a little bit of a shoot from the hip expansion of sewer. So one of the things the master plan really looked at was, you know, like, where can we make these investments, and can we do it in a more strategic, well thought out, you know, kind of, I think to your point of like MassWorks is, you know, like, what are the correct steps? How do we take these things forward? You know, one
Mhm.
thing to be Town Hall, Reed and Barton. Okay, then the next step is, okay, do we finish sewer on 140, or do we take a certain segment of 123, you know? So instead of saying, oh, we need sewer on some residential road just over there for 1 mile, we just need to look at it in a more holistic, well thought out master plan way, so that we're making those investments in the right locations,
Yes,
in the right order.
yes. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So that was one of the things that came out of the master plan, and you know, there was a number of partners obviously listed in that goal that was developed. So, you know,
Mhm.
we're certainly, you know, would welcome being a part of that dialogue.
Great.
And
Okay.
Maria, I'm sorry, just for some background, Julie is, she's a former member of the planning board. And she
Oh,
is
nice.
probably one of a handful of people who have read the master plan from beginning to end in detail multiple times. So she's a great resource. Certainly happy that she's on the EDC with us now that she stepped away from the planning board. Woo, our win.
She got poached.
Yes. Oh, she got poached before she was even off the planning board.
Yeah.
I think I was in your kitchen that day, wasn't it?
I think you were. Actually, I might have been signing Kevin's papers. I mean,
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah.
Hey,
Um,
Renee, I just found a sewer map. You want me to pop it up real quick?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
You have to enable screen sharing.
Oh, what is this? I don't understand why this setting will not take. Okay, should be good.
Oh, I got it. Yep. I don't want to share the wrong screen though. Hold on.
Do you want me to pause recording just in
That would
case?
be embarrassing. Where is it?
yeah, Maria. So if you need anything, you know, like any past insight or anything that maybe Brian can't help you with, but you know, like you've got great members on the board now, but I'm certainly, you know, a resource if you need anything.
I
I'd be
appreciate that.
happy to help out, as I know you're kind of coming in and meeting a lot of new people and trying to get up to date on what everything is going on in the town, but you know, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you.
We're really excited to have you.
So everybody can see that?
Yep.
Yes.
So the areas in red are areas for water and sewer. And then blue is water only.
Wow.
So
So,
I think if you look here, that's probably the area we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
what do you mean? Up, show me, Kevin, where were you?
Yeah, hang on. I'm gonna try to move around here.
I
So
don't-
this
I don't-
area
I don't know
here,
if that's far enough down.
Well, I don't think it is now that we're looking at it.
Uh-uh.
now this is from Bridgewater, Bridgewater State. Looks like they put this together.
Is there a date on there? Because on the 123 side, that's showing, so just, yeah, 123, that's not even on the Condyne side. Right? And we put in East Main Street, we put in down by the high school. So there are some updates that aren't on here. It looks like, but isn't that not Reed and Barton, Red Mill Village?
Here?
No,
No, right
Here?
there.
Right
Oh,
there.
here? Yes,
but Condyne is on. I didn't know Red Mill was on. You said the red is water and
is-
sewer?
Condyne is right, you mean Blue Star is right here,
Yeah, that's what I meant.
all along down here. This is
Yeah.
like, this is Plain Street here.
Leonard.
on this one.
No, that's Leonard.
Sorry, Leonard. Sorry, Leonard.
No, that's okay. You're
Yep.
driving blind without
Yeah,
street names and stuff. Yeah, so Blue Star is on it now, right? Part of East Main Street is because the Condyne put that as part of the property. Plain Street, I don't see.
so
What's
this
the
is,
date?
this is
Oh,
old,
geez.
April 2008. So this is pretty
Hmm.
old.
Maybe can you send that link
Yep.
or the report to Maria, and maybe Maria there's a,
Maybe there's an updated one
yeah,
somewhere.
there's an updated one, or maybe we can look at too, maybe Serpent could put, Maria, have you, sorry, he stopped sharing. I couldn't find you on my screen. Have you worked with, Serped in the past?
No, I was under MAPC before.
Okay, I'm wondering if, if Serped, we get hours annually, there's like 20 hours, I think, allocated to the planning board and 20 hours allocated, I think, to the select board, if I remember correctly. The EDC has used those hours in the past to help for like the marijuana overlay district that we did and the changes that we pushed through with that a couple years ago. I wonder, I don't know if the select board has anything, has the time allocated this year, but maybe that's something that they can assist with in getting an up-to-date map just to drop down our sewer. You know, maybe that would help the sewer and water guys, because I imagine their resources are probably low too. Just something for consideration for you, but Serped's a really good resource. I want to say, if I remember correctly, it's like 20 hours to the planning board, 20 hours to the select board annually that we get as part of the membership.
Well,
Okay.
they've done past mapping for us too, right, Renee? I mean, they've done other mapping exercises, so.
They've done research into, Maria, you mentioned earlier, the overlay for the pharmaceutical or the, it wasn't pharmaceutical. You used
Life
a different-
science.
Yeah, life science, thank you. They've done things like that before as well, and I thought that they did some research on life sciences overall, but you said we have a grant right now for a company
Yeah.
to do that?
Yeah, we got 25,000, or Paul got it.
Okay, so did he pass on that we had any previous material to support that, or no?
What do you mean?
That if Serpent had provided any sort of research previously about the areas for the life sciences?
I don't think I saw that in the supporting files he provided.
Okay. It may just have been part of our conversation. It might not
Okay.
be anything that we had in hand, but I mentioned that if you haven't met with Serpent, certainly talk to Mike about meeting with them, because you'll find them to be a huge resource and very knowledgeable and great to work with.
Great.
I like the idea, excuse me, of the tech assistance to small business, like, because it really just feeds right into their promotion and things that they could do. Especially post-COVID when they've changed some of their operations. So that's super great. And so you're submitting these in February, or you expect to hear back in February on the
I
grants?
need to submit the expressions of interest in February and the actual applications by, I think, the end of May.
Mhm.
And last year when I submitted for Sharon, the expression of interest was really helpful, because if you are not likely to get something, they'll suggest something else and, something similar instead, or even direct you to other programs. So I'm hoping it'll be at least a good sounding board.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. Is that, are you working in conjunction with that grant writing company that we use?
We have a grant writing company.
There was money allocated in the budget either last year or the year before, and I believe it's still in there, to have a third party help with grant writing.
Interesting.
Is there a specialist? So that might be another thing to ask Mike about, Mike Units.
Okay.
But definitely, yeah, if there's, I don't know how well your writing skills are, but I think when you do it all the time, right there, it can certainly be helpful.
Yeah, for Sharon, I was there a year and a half and I got them over $2.5 million. And so I feel confident. The only thing is like the time constraints here are
Exactly.
a little tighter. It's a lot going on. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, so if you could leverage a third party to do that, and then you just put the final touches on it, that would be,
Yeah.
I'm sure that would help you out.
Yeah, that's awesome to know. So I'm writing everything down. So tomorrow morning I'll have like, here are my questions.
Mike's gonna be like, you met with the EDC, right?
Don't tell them any of us were on. Don't name us by name, Maria.
Tell Maggie asked you the question.
Yeah, Maggie
Yeah.
wanted to know. Yes.
Yeah.
Especially about the sewer question.
Yes, yes.
That's legit. We
Yeah.
can do that.
If I can, I know that when we met with them, it was virtual. If I can find that meeting for you, I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
I mean, just to, in your spare time driving or something, if you could listen to the meeting, and that might be helpful for you, just to give you some background. I mean, I'm sure Frank has probably given you all the updates, but
Mhm.
maybe
we
just
start?
a discussion would be helpful.
Should we try to have Frank again? You said he met with him before.
Mhm.
Maybe it'd be advantageous to have him on again.
Sure. I think it was, oh my gosh, I'm losing the names. Jesus, Kevin, what did you do to me? It was Frank and who is the other?
John Harrop.
I don't know if it was John that was on that meeting. I'll look it up for you. Let me get you the names first. I know I was corresponding with Frank. And then he had a couple people come on.
One thing though, for MassWorks funding, and this is very important, and Kevin, I don't know how much this has been discussed with the select board. But if we do not adopt the MBTA requirements in Norton, we cannot get any MassWorks funding from here on out. And that's a huge pot of money we'll be losing out on. Yes.
That's a huge part of that legislation that is like so troubling with that MBTA zoning, is the fact that they literally will cut you off at the knees if you don't do it.
Yeah,
Like the stick on that, not the carrot, the
it's a
stick.
path.
Seriously, it is so severe. It's like kind of unprecedented.
I've been pretty focused on that, creating an MBTA district, and I mean we don't have a train in place yet,
Yeah,
or even a bus station, but but if we created the zone first, maybe it'll arrive.
yeah,
We have a couple examples of small neighborhoods in Norton, mainly down the Grove area off Reservoir Street and King Philip Road near Winnicott. And those are lots that are 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. So that's about the same size as the lots in like the north end of Boston or Old Fall River. It should be about the same size.
okay, it's good to know.
Yeah.
Didn't the town vote that down?
They have several times, and I'm looking forward to the next vote.
Try again.
Yeah,
When
right.
when is the next vote? Is it on to be voted?
No,
No?
no.
So essentially, if the town doesn't support the MBTA proposal, right?
Mhm.
Then we don't have the option to get any MassWorks funding.
No,
Oh, and it's not
Okay.
just MassWorks. It's like
It's
Massachusetts
a lot.
grants.
well,
Like,
it's
not-
it's three different programs.
Yeah.
Housing Choice, MassWorks, and there's something else that I don't remember.
What was the first one, Maria?
Housing Choice, which we're not a Housing Choice community.
Oh, okay, so that one is irrelevant.
Yeah,
I've sort of been I've been working on zoning districts and overlays, and
Yeah.
I've drafted up whatever. I don't know what anybody might think of it in the long run, but I've drafted it up. I'll send you a
Yeah.
copy of it, and you can look it over and review it with me. But that does take care of the MBTA district in a couple options.
interesting.
So
Okay,
it wouldn't be over imposing. It fits the current standards. It would make it able to be divided out of current lot sizes,
okay.
and we could position it carefully without ruining an entire residential district. So
I think that's gonna be great. And even if it didn't work out before, I think the possibility of like residents having to pay $4 million themselves versus having the state pay for it, like that's huge. You
Oh, yeah.
really, I think the stick there is a really big motivator. So hopefully the timing is right this time.
Well, I think unfortunately what you would find is you probably wouldn't get the town to support a $4 million cost, which is why
Yeah.
we've focused on businesses coming in like Condyne,
Mhm.
who will foot the bill for the project, right? And that's why I was under the impression, and I thought that was actually talked about at the town meeting when Steve, remind me of her name, I forget it all the time, and she's on my list to follow.
Anne
her.
Brensley,
Anne, and I thought that was actually one of the discussion points that Anne had mentioned was the potential that in this development that they would bring in the sewer. And then I think
That
there was
was definitely part of it.
yeah, and then I think there was some what's the word I want? Some response to that in respect to whether or not then the residents on Elm Street who were close by would then have to be paying for a hookup like what had happened in Plain Street and some other areas. And then there was a lot
that was
of
the resistance.
yeah, there's a lot of resistance because of that. So the the thing, and you guys know this, right, that we have to be careful with is putting an article in front of town meeting that is not a zoning article is a little different. If it fails, you can come back and do it again. If you tie it to something zoning, then you're stuck for 2 years if it fails, right? So like that's the approach has to be considered in this regard to say, do we do it in conjunction with the zoning change, or do we do it to try to influence the support behind the MBTA community effort? So just mentioning that as, something strategically that needs to be thought through and discussed.
We'd only need a majority vote this time though, not 2/3.
For that, to support that.
Yeah.
Why,
for
has something
MBTA only.
changed?
Just for housing articles that promote housing, different housing types, all other zoning will still be 2/3.
Mhm.
But maybe that'll make it easier. I
Well,
don't-
what does the MBTA portion have to be? Like, because
Fif-
is that
15
specifically tied to
houses per
zoning?
acre. And
Is
it has
it-
to include multifamilies or mixed use.
Mhm. Anybody know the last time the town voted on that?
Oh, no, I
We
mean,
voted
it's-
on a train in like 2008, but
no, I
not
mean,
an
nothing,
MBTA.
nothing like this, nothing like
Yeah.
this. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Not in recent years, So this one, to Steve's point, is very kind of prescribed.
Mhm.
You have to find the location where you want that density.
Yeah, well, one of the things I wanted to do was prevent us from taking one of the current districts we already have, like, let's say the residential 40, and turning the entire thing into an MBTA
Right.
style district. I think it'd be better for us to create a new zone or adapt a zone or use an overlay to
Mhm.
influence that into pockets.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, they have to be at least 25 acres in size, I think, the pockets.
Sure, well, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, for the MBTA.
Yeah.
Was thinking clusters in my head, but
Do we have that,
I mean, the
do we have
overlay,
that
not the
available?
parcels.
Right.
do we have that land available?
Do we have that
Everywhere.
land available? No, I mean, like in one specific area. Like,
Yeah,
is there
absolutely.
25
Well,
acres in one area that we potentially would be
For,
able to do that and not have the town?
Yeah, for a
completely
frame of
refuse it.
reference, like you've been to Beacon Hill? Those are 5,000 square foot properties.
You're talking about Boston, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
or like Back Bay. Those
Yeah.
are about 5,000 square foot properties. So when you see those giant apartment buildings, that's actually about the same size as my block, like Wampum Rumford Road. It's not much bigger. So if we designated a small area of town, we could get an MBTA district without overwhelming any other area of the town. It would be no different than building a small industrial park or a commercial district.
So it's like the size of five blocks, 5 city blocks is what you're saying, 25,000 square feet?
Pretty much, 25,000 is, you mean 25 acres?
Oh, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
It'd be 25 times 43,000 and so, yeah, it's big, but it's not too big at all. It's not unusual. It is just a small commercial park.
We'd need two of those, right? We need at least 50, but they need to be at least 25 acres each if you want to split them up.
Okay, yeah.
So I think
So-
that could work.
And
So
but
why
right
don't
now,
we-
because, sorry, right
Go
now,
ahead.
because we don't have a train or a bus station, we can place it anywhere we want.
Oh,
Once
okay,
we
got it.
put a train station or a bus station here, we have to locate it near that station or
Yeah.
bus station.
Listen, a train station's never coming.
Well, still, I mean, if 100 years down the line they do, we might want to put the MBTA district around. We might want to crowd people near the train anyways. That's where we're going to have transit. If
Well,
any-
yeah, I mean,
if
that's
any-
supposed to be the point, right? I mean, I think the thing with
Right.
the legislation is it's very overreaching in my personal opinion, right? Like it's really, to like for people like Mansfield, right? It's done a great job of building up around the station and creating that density
Mhm.
there, right? That's exactly
Sure.
what it's meant for. What makes
Right.
it tough for us is that, yeah, I mean, we've got like, a handful of glorified bus stops. And that's it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean, Steve? Like we don't have the transit infrastructure. Now, down the line, maybe we would get something like a rapid route on Gatra. That would be awesome. And if that rapid
Sure.
route hit high density areas up and down 140 or 123 or
Right.
wherever, that'd be awesome.
But
that would
that's
be
not going to
great.
come unless the people are there asking for it.
Yeah.
There's
Great.
no reason for them to put a new bus line in if nobody lives there. It's going to pick up 8 people. It's
Oh,
not going to,
yeah.
you're not going to get a bus line for 5 or 10 years and encourage people to move in.
Mhm.
Can we do
So
something
you-
around the
you-
bike trail?
Like, I'd love for something around the bike trail.
No, like
But,
that
like,
would meet this
Look at the-
criteria?
Well, we have one spot we could put it that the town owns. We could put a bus stop on the bike trail.
No,
right by
I'm
the-
just saying like the overlay, like, is there potential along the bike trail for this type of zoning? Right,
Oh,
because the
yeah,
bike trail is
sure.
like a transit path, right? And
Oh.
if people potentially work in Mansfield or they take the Mansfield train, like this bike
Mm-hmm.
trail, when it's done, will be an opportunity to ride right into the train station.
Well, the way I've sort of laid it out with a couple options is we could hit an MBTA district with a few different types of forms, whether it was a small little row house style block,
Mhm.
or if we did it as small cottages that were tightly packed. Because right now, the reference of like a residential as 40,000 square feet is completely different than the neighborhood I live in. Right now at 5,000 square feet, I'm 8 times the density of most of the neighborhoods everywhere else in town. And it's comfortable, and there's still actually room. A lot of the lots have been bought out and doubled up. So we could have an MBTA district that doesn't look like a city.
Oh, I agree with that, especially when you look at like housing choices and things like that could be used, Steve. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And housing diversity in Norton is not a bad thing either. I mean, we've talked about that too.
Mm,
Right. Well, there's a whole generation that can't afford homes. If I could buy a small piece of land and a house for $50,000 to $100,000, maybe I'd have a chance.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Can you buy anything for that price in Massachusetts anywhere?
You could a generation ago. My house on it's
Yeah, but
366
now-
Reservoir Street. My old house, we bought it for 25,000. It just sold for 400. So the generations got a little bit mixed up. I'd like to see some more small lots, and nobody can divide their land up anymore. Nobody can hand a piece of land to their kids. We're restricted by lot sizes.
Mhm.
Make it happen, Maria.
Priority number 1.
Yes, yes. Okay, good. You think it's worth, Julie, is any of this linked into any of the master plan items?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of them. I mean, a lot of common threads for sure, you know. I mean,
Directly.
Yep. Yep. A lot of common threads for sure. Which is
So we
good,
can-
right? You
yeah.
know, like that's what we want to, we want to be using the master plan as a guide, those type of things. So yeah, I mean, like housing choices, housing diversity. I mean, that's in the master plan, obviously infrastructure, be it sewer, water, whatever, that's in the master plan. Advertising businesses, that's in the master plan. So I mean, everything that we're touching on definitely links to goals that are in that document.
Sure. Maria, have you seen that document?
I read it before I started. I need to read it again.
Mhm.
It's good to revisit them every couple months in case there's anything you missed.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Well, and
yeah.
now it's a little more real for you, right? It's
Yeah.
not just like all theory on a piece of paper. Yeah.
And then Maria, just so like when we get to the point of needing any zoning changes or, we get to that, like, kind of leaning on the master plan, I think is a really good selling point. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure as you've heard from, your time here, right? It's in town meeting can be an uphill battle. It's not easy. So frequent, early, tied to past efforts that have passed town meeting are all good things. And
Mhm.
when I was on the planning board, we purposely put the master plan into town meeting
Yeah.
for this reason. So, like Kevin, Alan, like those guys will tell you, like when we did it, we purposely wanted to send it to town meeting to get the blessing of the town because we felt that that was a really, really big step for the document and something we could lean on in the future when we wanted to make changes that align with like the goals that we had in there. So just some food for,
Yeah.
background for you.
I do have a proposed zoning amendment that I know will be a little controversial. And it's kind of
Okay.
related to economic development. Solar, there's a case that came out in June of 2022, Tracer Lane versus Waltham, that basically says that you cannot restrict zoning to one, the industrial part of town. You need to allow zoning to go pretty much everywhere because it is a protected use, kind of like a Dover Amendment use. So now towns are starting to either change their bylaws or kind of risk getting sued over it because they could. There's a precedent now.
Oh, we've already gotten
for-
sued over solar
Oh, that's not good.
more than once.
Oh, recently?
Well, when I was on the board, we've had a lot of,
Oh,
we'll update you offline on solar.
okay.
Yeah,
Please
yeah,
do.
that's a topic.
And
That's a
but
topic
that's
you
a tough
should-
topic. And if somebody doesn't have a sit down with you, reach out to me and I'll sit down with you and we can go over it.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Maria, there was a solar topic that was proposed at the last town meeting that failed. Somebody remind me,
Solar
was
and
it for
R40.
R40 or was it for R40 to
It was
allow it? in
40,
R-
right, Steve? 40,
Yes, it was.
right?
Yeah, so you might want to take a look at that, and all our stuff is recorded too, so you could see the discussion in there.
Yeah.
Cody Thompson, who used to be on the EDC, is now on FinCom, but he actually stood up in support of it. It was a petitioned article, I believe, right? There was no support from the planning board or
No.
FinCom. So which is always, it's always a gamble for a petition article too, because people don't feel like they're informed.
Yeah.
But that would be a good one just to understand the language and the vote overall.
Sure.
That was for large scale ground mounted solar in R40.
Mhm.
So you can
Which
still
I think
put it
right
on a
now is
building.
allowed in all the other zones, right? R40 is the only one where it's not right now, is that correct?
It's allowed by special permit
Yep.
in R60 and R80.
Right.
And that's what the article was trying to do, is similarly allowed by special permit in R40.
Correct.
But you
Okay.
could still put a ground mounted solar that's under 250 whatever megawatts or what, I don't know what I don't know what the voltage is there, but yeah.
Okay.
So you can put like a household version, but you just can't power a neighborhood.
Because the one I was proposing, I wrote it with we redid the zoning in Sharon last year, worked with Mark Bobrowski to do that. And that's something I'm also gonna be seeking grant funding to do here in Norton, just clean up the zoning,
Yeah.
get it to align with the master plan, you know, but one of the things he did right for us was a solar bylaw that I've been using kind of as a template, and it would hopefully allow different, like not just large scale, but small and medium scale. So it's tasteful to the district you're proposing. Doesn't always have to be this huge, you know, parking lot of solar fields. And also canopies, roof mounted, just really trying to promote all kinds of solar, but also keeping in mind that they would require site plan review, because special permit is also a little debatable now, because a special permit can be denied just because you don't like it. Like it's just opinion or whim, or however you want to say it, but a site plan review, you have to approve it with reasonable conditions. And if the reasonable conditions cannot be met, that's when you deny it. But it's becoming much more of a protected use. So we want to allow different kinds, different sizes, and just be mindful of what those conditions would be. You know, screening, fencing, etc.
Mhm. Have you presented this to the planning board already?
I'm due on the 17th,
Okay,
so we'll see what
There's
they say.
a small ground mounted solar installation on Newcomb Street, just
there
over the bridge. It's in somebody's yard. It's not that big. It's a few panels, but it is just one ground mounted unit.
Oh,
So it's like a
There's,
little canopy thing.
yeah. Have you been out to any of the solars that we have in town?
I have
we
not
have?
been around town yet. It's been a little crazy.
Okay. I know, and it's like, best time of the year to do it. I mean, it's only 40 degrees. What do we have, 4 or 5 right now? Not
We have
necessarily all
at least
active, but,
3.
so we
At
have
least
Hill
3.
Street, that's active. That I
Hill Street's
swear
got 2 across from each other.
I swear that the alarm is going off every time I pass there. There is Plain Street, which I don't believe, Nick Iafredi's been working with them. I don't believe that one has actually been turned on, but it's built.
Okay.
That's an easy one to see from well, they're both easy to see from the road, but the Plain Street one is right next to LGN, the elementary school.
Mhm.
There is the one out by Sewer and Water, right? I can't think of the name of the street, but I think there's one out there too. Or maybe, is there one out there? Or am I thinking of where they were planning on
Is there
putting
one
one?
on Elm Street?
Mm,
Hmm. There's the one off Fairley Lane that's off by the off behind the bogs.
Oh,
behind
Clap
the
Street.
Railroad Buds.
Clap Street. That's the one I'm thinking of,
Clap
Steve.
Street.
Clap Street.
Yeah, and then the schools actually just did the canopy ones.
Mm.
So I know
Mhm.
what LGN Middle School, JCS, does JCS have it?
I think they all do.
Do they all? Okay, where's the Yell?
It's
where
right
are
in the
their
front
canopies?
where the buses park,
Oh, I don't think I've seen it.
in the center, those center, where staff parks and the
Okay.
buses loop around, but where the staff parks in the center, right out front, it's
Yeah.
got the canopies there.
So have you seen those, Maria, or none? You haven't
No,
been
I
around those?
haven't.
Joe Paeta would be a good person to talk to. He's a superintendent of schools. He could probably put you in touch with one of his guys to just kind of do an overview of what they had planned. Because they've done, I don't know if you're familiar with the train project. but that's a really good, it was a really good effort on their part to have, I think it's a 20-year plan of, being able to have sustainability and, keep up with end-of-life equipment and things like that to keep costs down for the town. So they're a good group. I'm sure Mike can do a soft intro for you.
Yeah.
I feel like we're missing one. Oh, wait, nothing happened at the bog, right?
Well, there's one next to the bogs if you go off Fairleigh Lane, which is off Birch Street. So if you come off of Fairleigh Lane and you go off to the, whatever that would be, the west side.
Mhm. But it's
south
not
side of
in
the
that, on that
bogs.
property. Is it on the,
No.
is it on the bog property? No?
It's not on the
it's
Yeah,
not.
bogs.
they're in 3 segments there. There's
Yeah.
3 patches of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're tucked back behind there. So like, if you know where I live, if you go across the bogs from where I live on Bay Road, it's across there on the other side of the bogs.
okay.
Um,
So good places probably just to drive past and see.
Well, that one is like a dirt road. Don't go now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, don't,
Or,
there's
or-
like, and there's like signs out there, like, no trespassing, private property.
Just Google map it, Maria. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't go back there.
I
You
would-
can, Mike Units gave me a tour of the town once. He actually, it was a wonderful experience. So if he ever has time and you guys have an opportunity, it was a really good, like, and a lot of it was focused on like where were there potential opportunities for economic development or residential development, and where were there properties? Like, I can specifically remember where Wheaton owned a property where there were past discussions on, the town acquiring that property or them putting it up for sale for, some sort of commercial use.
Mhm.
But anyway, he's your boss. You can always ping him. The only thing I'll say, and he'll remember this, is his seat back broke. So the seat was back and I was like leaning forward the whole time. I think he did on purpose,
And I
but it
think
was a wealth of knowledge.
I think the bog project, again, as an abutter to that, I've been keeping an eye on that. I think that's still in legal
It is.
hell.
Oh,
I think Julie's named in the suit.
Oh, yeah, I am. I'm on that one.
So, but yeah, I don't know where that is, if it's in appeals or I don't know what's going on with that one.
so that's one of our lawsuits.
One of them. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I think coffee with Julie would be advantageous.
I think so too.
I had
maybe
never
some-
been sued before until I joined the planning board.
Now you're like, check, check, check. You're like, can I stop this on my bucket list?
You got a
Yeah.
frame on your fridge.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. My husband's like, oh, certified mail again.
Oh,
Never
it's
a dull
funny.
day.
No. Well, thanks, Marianne. Thanks, everybody, for the discussion. I thought, that's good. It sounds like there are a lot of good things, and I think, Marie, between like what your aspirations are and what we've been looking at on the master plan list, like there's some true alignment. So that, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I'm
to know that,
excited.
yeah, that we'll be able to push forward and help. And we are certainly here. I mean, we're volunteers and members of the community, but we are here to help in any way. So please, like, even if it seems silly or, mundane or administrative, like, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help out.
Thank you.
So why don't we just quickly, I can't see the time on my computer. Are you guys mind if we just bring up the liquor license and the review process and just talk
Mhm.
that
Sure.
very quickly?
Sure.
Did everybody have a chance to look at it, or you want me to share it on screen?
Yeah, share it on screen, please.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Let me just pull it. So a little background to this. I don't know how many years ago it was, but the select board, the topic of the special legislation liquor licenses has been in existence for at least 5 years. So I think I've been off the board for a year. It was discussed, I believe, prior to my joining the board, and when I was first on the EDC, it had come up. So the town, it certainly came up as part of the marijuana because, as you know, if we get additional liquor licenses through special legislation, then we essentially, because our town is 20% the liquor licenses, we would have another marijuana retail license available. So it's always been a topic that's been talked back and forth. So right now, I think the town applied, we voted at town meeting. I want to say, I'll have to look at, it's in here, June, I want to say it was, but voted at town meeting, successfully had it approved. And then I believe right now it's in front of the governor for review and approval. So one of the things that as part of this, a former select board member who had been on the board for quite some time had some concerns when we were talking about additional liquor licenses, in that a special legislation license that was issued in the past was not done by a formal process. So there was some concern. So as part of that discussion, and this Maria goes back at least 2 years, if not 3. As part of that discussion, you know, we talked about having a formal review process before the select board, so that there was a layer of an additional checks and balances, if you will. And so that was what was approved at town meeting. I initially started working on this process. What we did is we had a retail, we called it the marijuana retail, it was Mrs. Marijuana Retail Subcommittee that we put in place, because we had about 5 or 6 interested parties, and we only had 2 retail licenses to award. So we did a review process we had a subcommittee with the EDC, with Paul, Mike Units, and then we brought in like Chief Clark and Chief Simmons when we needed the information or additional just SME discussion. So what was discussed was that we would leverage that process and work with town council to formalize the process for a liquor license review committee. So last year at some point, we developed it, talked about the EDC, talked about the select board, and then I went away with, okay, well, we'll formalize this, work with town council, get the language, and then bring it back in front of the select board. So since that time, the select board has changed, the EDC has changed. I stopped working on it because there was discussion of not having that as part of the article, that we wouldn't have this review process. So just didn't want to spend extra time on something that wasn't needed. But then it did pass at town meeting. And then I figured with where the special licenses are, the special legislation was, we needed to get this back on the board, so that if those licenses are approved, we're in a good position to start an RFA process and start taking these applications and reviewing them. So let me pull that up. I stopped doing that just to have a quick discussion here.
Was the purpose of that to get more retail marijuana licenses, or just to have more liquor licenses?
It was to have more liquor licenses, but we wanted to be transparent in that it would add another retail license. Yeah, and truth be told, and I'll be completely transparent, I had tried to push when we were doing the marijuana bylaw. I was always the one that wanted the 30% instead of 20%. But the EDC voted and we received support from the select board for 20%. So we didn't go 30, but I'm of the mindset that
We could look at that again.
competition and things like that, it's fair market, right? I don't think it's up to a town really to limit things, but I understand at the same time, we don't want especially with something that is so new to people, having it be recreational use. And there's some concern for, use of marijuana by minors and et cetera, we were doing it in the best interest of the town. So I completely understand, but no, the liquor license was specifically because, there had been requests and we felt that that it would be something that the town could support in doing that, specifically for all alcohol, because the majority of the licenses are not all alcohol.
Yeah.
So let me open this up. And as I'll just mention, this is not a final document. This is a document that has some pending questions for town council. But hopefully we'll be done this week and then presented to the select board in the next couple of weeks. Okay. So for those who have never seen the marijuana retail subcommittee document, this is very much the same. It just goes through and I will give big kudos to KP Law for going through and citing the correct general laws in here, as well as fixing some of the language so that it was very clear on the role of both the Liquor License Review Committee as well as the Select Board in this process. You know, in setting the expectation too, you'll see there's language in here about making sure that the applications are completed so that, you know, we have the ability to move forward in the process and not just specifically have to stop because somebody had, you know, have to stop and continue to follow up with people because it hasn't been submitted completely. So can you guys see my screen? Do you want me to make this bigger?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, let me do something here just to get this. I have the Zoom menu in my way. Let me try to move that for a sec because I can't. I cannot. I'm stuck and I can't get to the menu bar. Hold on, let me unshare and try to move this file down on my screen. Okay, wait for it. Okay. Oh my God, now another pop-up keeps coming from Zoom. Okay, just to get some of the information out of here. Okay, so again, it outlines the request for application. Just it highlights what the role of the town will be, as well as the Liquor License Review Committee, as I mentioned, and then what's expected from each applicant. So you'll see, and it's outlined later on in the appendix, but it just talks about the request for application. And essentially the process is we will define, the Select Board, being the town, will define the time period for the request for application. In that time period, you know, the information will be sent to Mike Units, and then it'll be forwarded onto the EDC. And then once that window closes, we would start our evaluation and review process. And this was specifically, again, put together so that there was a fair, equitable process in place. So you'll see that there are rankings, like some sort of a ranking system that we would do. When we did the marijuana subcommittee, we used a rubric that one of the members had put together. So I would imagine we would leverage that and then just be consistent again in our approach. But it does show here, you know, the licenses specifically aren't complete without the recommendation from the LORC. So that's part of the timeline that would be included. What is listed here, and what there's an outstanding question on is for us a 45-day review of the applications, and then I believe a 3-week time period for us to prepare the final report and recommendation to the Select Board. But it does note here too, again, you know, it's not a binding request, it's an invitation for interested parties to submit that pre-application for screening to us. And then that would be prior to submission of a formal application to the Select Board. These submittals are helped for us to determine the suitability and desirability of the respondents. They would submit, and you'll see down here, they actually have to submit a form through the state, through the alcohol, the ABCC, as part of this process to make sure that, you know, that information is being captured and then comes to us. I don't know if we have to go into all of this, you know, in respect to the requirements, but of course, this doesn't waive or negate any of the requirements for the state regulations or the town of Norton, or the Select Board as a local licensing authority, because they do retain full discretion here to assess the applications individually and on their merits. Our recommendations are for informational purposes only, and the Select Board can reject all or any portion of the recommendations that we make. So again, it solidifies the process to make sure that this evaluation process is fair and concise, and allows us to vet the applicants based on their interest in the town of Norton. This is a section here that once we decided what the RFA time period would be, we would just insert the information here for the number of licenses that we had available, as well as the type of those licenses, and then give the time frame for the window. So the next part really just talks about the committee and the process. As I mentioned, the process, it's established by a select board, but it is it's comprised of the members of the EDC, the town manager, and the director of planning. Yay, Maria. And again, we would bring in the chief of police, fire chief, or any other department heads that we need to have some SME discussion. So that's and they've all been very good at reviewing the information that we've needed to have reviewed. Mike's really been the middle person there to make sure that those folks have been engaged and providing the information to them. And as I mentioned, once that request for application window closes, then we start to do our evaluation. It says, you know, what we do now, we have duly notice public meetings. We would follow OML for these. And then we would ask them to appear if we wanted to ask questions or have any presentation of information. And just to share with this group, and you know, it's certainly something that we can discuss as we do it, because this part isn't formalized. What we did with the marijuana ones is we took all the applications and we actually did it in webinar format. So it was just a discussion of the marijuana retailer subcommittee on the application and the information that we had, and then we documented questions. The applicants typically attended. They weren't there to speak, but they were there to understand the discussion. And then we reached out to them with any questions we had or points that we needed clarified. And then we scheduled them for the next meeting to come in and either present or answer questions. It was a really good, I think it was a really good format because it allowed the commission to do, or the subcommittee to do what it needed to do to conduct the business, because we had, I think at the time, 6 or 7 applications. So I don't know how many we would get for this. I know of at least 3 interested parties or 3 parties that were interested over the years. So, you know, there could be more based on when the RFA is actually put out there. Again, as I mentioned, anything that was incomplete would be rejected and not considered by us unless they submitted the information prior to the close of the timeframe for the RFA. The evaluation is, as I mentioned, like it's our way of going through to make sure that we're asking the same questions, that we're looking at the same information consistently so that we can really provide that fair evaluation. The rankings that we would do, like I said, you'll see below, we could use a 1 through 5 system. We can use something that says, you know, most advantageous, advantageous, or least advantageous, like whatever we decide, that's up to us. That'll be discussion that we have, of course, before the process begins, just so that we're all on the same page and we agree to how we'll proceed. And we have some time for that, right? The RFA window will be open for several weeks, so we could take that time to really discuss how we would want to go through this. After the review, then we would provide a report and present that to the select board. Again, the scores that we calculate aren't binding to them. They do retain the full discretion to assess each application if they wanted to. Based on the report and recommendations, I mentioned, you know, we would have 3 weeks after the close of our review to get that report ready. So it would probably be, I would anticipate at that point, you know, 2 meetings that probably wouldn't be on our normal schedule. So there will be, you know, we'll need to talk about that too as a group to figure out what, based on how many applications we have, how we want to proceed. Because I don't know with if we have the 45-day window, if a meeting every other week would help us to meet, you know, to be able to review the applications and bring people in. So we'll need to talk about that too once we have more information. Just what our schedule will be. I mentioned the report. After the report, then the select board has to have public meetings for that discussion of the report. And then if they wanted to, for the consideration, they actually schedule public hearings for any applicants with interest who have continued interest. And then in those public hearings, they would use the report as a guide in determining whether there's a public need for the license. I thought this was something that they added after the fact, that if we have more than 1 applicant interested in the same license, that the public hearings are scheduled in the order they're ranking from the report, with the highest rating application being heard first, and the select board could vote to actually issue the license at that meeting and not hear from any other application. So that was a change from the initial review process. It was something that the town council had added in. We provide information about not discriminating, and this is standard, just making sure that, you know, again, we are doing this fair, that this is a fair process throughout, from our review as well as the boards. And then there's just another, you know, piece in here about that the board can reject any of our applications not to be in the town best interest, regardless of the recommendation from the review committee. Boop, boop. The alcohol beverages, the ABCC still has, I'll say Trump power here, right? We have to make sure that we are abiding by the applicable laws, and nothing within our review process or the board's process to approve a license would be outside of that. I think this is just the basic stuff here, the compliance with the requirements, ownership of documents. Once they give it to us, it's property of the town. One thing that Mike will work on here, and we will make sure that folks know, you know, the public record, that we do ask them to redact any of that information, any confidential or financial information in here, because it does become public record. And this is not information that we need to conduct an appropriate review. So that's in there as well. The submission requirements are here. It's, I think, pretty clear. I mentioned the application that they have to actually apply through the ABCC, and that's for, it would, depending upon what their position is, it's either for a new retail license application or a transfer retail license application. But they do that online, and then that information would come through with us on the RFA. We do ask for a cover letter, so that's always good, just as a general introduction, especially when we're just looking at the information. And then you'll see we run through, what we did is we took all of the information that we had asked as part of the marijuana review subcommittee, and we focused on what was relevant in this process for a liquor license, and also if there were any areas that we didn't include that would then be advantageous here. So certainly this is not final copy. If you see this, you know, anyone on here, Maria, whomever, if you feel that there's an area that we haven't captured that we should be reviewing from these applications, please let me know, or we can discuss it here and now, and we can add it in and just have town council review that for us to make sure that we're within the limits to do that. But it's general information, right? To understand if, you know, really like what their business plan is, looking at the revenue forecasted, their market analysis, like making sure that the company is advantageous to Norton, and it's something, you know, it's a partnership that we would want to engage in the future. So these are just general questions about the operations, the timeline, their policies and procedures. You know, we really want to understand that you know, how they're going to run their business within Norton. And then the qualifications, item D there, it just talks about the individuals named on the application so that we can understand who the people are, what the contacts are, their ownership interest, the proposed manager, and then the entity overall for management. And then the items E and F, you know, that helps us to kind of shore up what our thoughts are on the I don't want to say the benefits of the town, because that's the wrong word to use, but to understand like long-term and sustainability and how the company would operate within the town. So just talk about what the details of their establishment are, and then any plans that they have for positive community benefits. The review criteria, as I mentioned, you know, again, this is something that we would go through to put in some sort of a document that we would be able to track, and then use some sort of a ranking system so that we're consistent with our reviews of the applications. I won't look at these or I won't mention these individually, but you can see again here, if you have anything to add, please feel free to do so. And this, I don't think in this area that we added anything that wasn't in the marijuana retail subcommittee. I think most of this is pretty standard. It talks, you know, when you're looking at the nature of the business and the number of licenses, really talks to experience in the industry. And then looking at location and job creation, number of employees, like that's direct impact on the community. So just things like that, kind of, you know, you can put them in different overall categories. So any questions? I know that was kind of like a fast rundown of a 5-page document.
I mean, no questions. It looks good. I mean, that's pretty solid.
I think it looks great. Would you mind going through it all one more time?
Yeah, of course. Hold on, let me just go back and I'll replay that section.
I think it's outstanding. I think it looks great.
Yeah, and I can't take credit for this because most of it was taken from the marijuana retail subcommittee, and that was done by a few folks beforehand. So,
It's a
but
great idea though. Why recreate the wheel when you have
Right.
the process already in place?
Exactly, and that was one of the things that we talked about on the select board was, that the process seemed, it worked well. We all didn't agree. I mean, we had very different opinions when we went to vote, but we voted and we presented the board what we had, and the board had also asked, well, on the people who you didn't select, like, what were some of the reasons, right? Or on those who it was like a 3-2 split. So it really shows, I think, that,
Hey,
we
pizza.
can have, what was that, Steve?
Pete's on.
What?
Peter's here.
Pete joined.
Oh, I can't see him.
Hey, Pete.
Everyone,
Hey, Peter, how are
look at
you?
the Renee and the gang doing good.
I can't see you because I'm sharing my screen. Let me stop sharing. There we go. And
Hi, Renee and Julian, Maria and the gang.
Hey, Peter.
Doing good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. 2023 gonna be busy going all the meetings in person and Zoom and important events, you name it.
Yes. Well, we're happy to have you here on Zoom. We were talking about you earlier, wondering if you were going to join.
Hey, Renee, quick question. What's the, do you know what like the formal opening process is? Like, does it get posted on the website, on our website, or
Yep.
does it have to be publicly posted? Like, how does that all, what kicks it
Yeah.
off?
It'll get posted on the website. So there's a link in here, and it's the same link that we used before. There's on our town website, there's a section called bids. And I think it's actually under the Maria's site for the economic and I always get your department backwards, so I apologize. The Planning and Economic Development Department, right? I have to remember it starts with a P and not an E. But there's a place there where the RFAs or RFQs or RFIs or anything that we're putting out to bid, where it goes. So we just leverage the existing process for that. And like I said, the one thing that changes in this is we just have to list, like, we're accepting responses for how many different licenses, what type of licenses are they? Because I think, and I have to, the language for the warrant article was changed a couple times. And when it was presented at town meeting, I want to say the way that it was written was, this process is not just for the 2 special legislation licenses that we expect, but it would be for any available license. And if I remember correctly, we have 1 beer and wine license available right now. Right, correct. And I don't know if there have been any interested applicants in that, but this would be a process that would be leveraged for that. And then, it's sustainable, right? It's a fairly simple process of people who are involved to collaborate and make recommendations to the board. The board doesn't have the time to go through 6 or 7 hours of evaluation or application. So this is a way to help inform them to make a good decision, for something that will hopefully be in town for many, many years.
Well, one member of the board has 6 or 7 hours, apparently.
That's true. Oh, you volunteered, Kevin. You can't not volunteer now. You're
Yeah,
stuck.
Good point.
While we're
You
on
too,
the
Maggie.
subject, Bog Iron just had their 10-year.
Yes, I saw that. I actually listened in the business updates. That was hoping you'd mention that. You're jumping ahead, Steve. No, but it's good. Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. I do. So Maria, did you have any questions on that process, or?
I'm actually really impressed. That was a very thorough document, and I feel like you covered everything. So that would be a separate board, or would the EDC also become the liquor licensing?
So the way that we did it before was the EDC doesn't become the liquor license authority. So the way we did it before is we would essentially we'd have a posted meeting, right? The EDC would come to order, and then we would also then bring the liquor license review committee to order.
Okay, so it's like a joint thing.
It is. So the liquor license review committee is, sorry, I thought there was movement behind me. The liquor license review committee is the EDC, yourself, and Mike Units. So it's not just this commission that does it. It's all of us together. So we had we had, town representation and expertise as well as community membership and partnership.
Okay, awesome. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if you were going to like have more different appointed members for that, or if it would remain the same group we have here. I think
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense though.
Yeah, it would be the same group or whoever, at the time are the members of the EDC. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
So
great.
you're in it with us. But that's why we'll have to coordinate schedules, right, to figure out the best way to do it in the allotted time that we have. And, that'll depend on the number of applications that are received.
Yeah.
But there is that one section that we had in there that said that, we would do the review within 45 days. I don't remember if we had that in the marijuana retail subcommittee. I feel that we may have, but I can tell you it was a lot of work. It was a lot of meetings to go through, especially the first one. Like I think the first one took 2 or 3 hours just to go through. Like we needed to kind of find our mojo in the process, right? And so I imagine that will be the same for us too. But I'm hoping, if we can kind of get in front of and I don't want to say like have a mock review of it, but kind of get in front of and go through, the criteria that we'll be evaluating against in the rankings and things like that we'll be more comfortable and can kind of hit the road running.
Yeah.
But it's a process that worked very well before. I anticipate that it will work just as well. I mean, we found like Paul was super helpful through that process as well as Mike, like just to bring all the different minds together. It was really good. And like I said, I mean, they're all, open to the public too. So if somebody were to have questions or comments, they could certainly reach out to us and we can discuss that in the meeting. Excuse me. So let me know, like I said, if there's anything that you guys think that we may have overlooked or maybe there's questions on something that's in there, let me know because the document's not final yet. Or it hasn't been presented to the select board for final approval. So we can change it and still get town council to weigh in. Cool. Well, with that, Steve, you want to say anything? You were at the 10-year celebration for Bog Iron?
I went at the end of the night. I spent the day in Boston with my son for his birthday, but then I came back and spent a couple hours. So it was nice.
Excellent.
It seemed like a busy night. They were having a good time. It went late, so that was good.
What was it, last month or was it in November?
The 10-year,
Yes.
they officially poured their first beer January 1st, I guess. So, but they had the party on the 8th. I mean, on the 7th, rather.
Of January?
Yeah.
Wait, like 2 nights ago? Wait, what's the date?
Yeah.
It was just this past weekend?
Yeah, 2 nights ago, I think.
My God, why do I feel like you sent us a note about that like a week ago? Does anyone else feel that way?
I don't know.
Uh-oh,
They
Maggie
posted
came
on
off mute.
Facebook.
Just you.
I think I remember you saying something about it, but I had a friend's birthday, so I didn't go.
They didn't have a date when I talked to them the last time. I just
Okay.
knew it was going to be in January.
Gotcha. Well, kudos to them. It's great to
Yeah.
have them in town. Maria, have you been there yet to Bog Iron?
No, I
Oh my
haven't.
goodness.
Is it just drink or food too?
Is it what?
Definitely should.
Food and drink?
I think it's just, is it food now or is it still just?
They don't have food of their own. They order from Norton House.
Interesting.
So if you order food, you get a pizza from Norton House.
Oh. I've
Oh,
been
so
there a few
that's who
times,
they partnered with now? to
Yeah,
Bring food
yeah.
over?
And this Mayor Norton does not drink beer.
I don't think there is, actually, I don't know what the kids got. We were there with the kids after one of the town cleanups. They've been very active in the community. It's a good establishment. Brian's a super nice guy. We actually did I think I know Steve and Julie were here. Kevin, were you on the EDC when we did our in-person meeting with him? No, it was Denise.
That was
So
my
we-
first meeting.
Yeah, your first, see, Steve
Yeah,
came
Steve
in
and that was our
Yeah.
first meeting.
Woohoo. See, they came in and our first meeting was at Bog Iron. So it was actually, and we can always, ask Brian again, but I thought it was a really great meeting because he took us through, some of the challenges that he's had as a business owner overall, some of the things that he's had specific to Norton. He took us through the establishment, how they make the beer. We met the cat that, make sure that there are no mice in the facility. And Like it was really a wonderful, it was a wonderful night. Like it was so, I don't know, it opened my eyes to everything that like goes into actually having a brewery, you know, and he talked about at the time, he actually talked about, and he showed us an area within Bog Iron that he was hoping to, I think, like lease out or rent to have food on site. Apparently that fell through, but there have been a couple things there that they've had to bring food in, and during COVID, they specifically needed the food.
Yeah.
To continue to operate, but they did a great job. They, you know, the outside portion, if you've driven past there, that wasn't always there. Like that was a result of COVID that he put the outdoor seating in, and he's done a lot to, you know, just like paint the cement barriers and put the shade sails up. I don't think that the shade sails are up anymore. But and have lighting and stuff. So really, really good partner to the town. As are many other business owners too, but you should definitely get there. And if it has to be after hours and we need to hold an EDC meeting there to get you there, I am not opposed to that at all. So, any other updates that folks have? Okay. Hey,
I
can
don't,
I
I,
ask?
I'm,
Go ahead, Steve, I'm sorry.
let's just say, I met with two young ladies that work at Wheaton College in student financing. And they said that they have about 2,000 students or so roughly right now, and they're looking to increase that. So if we can figure out a way to pack more student housing close to campus, I would assume the VCC overlap on Howard Street seems like a kind of a priority spot. But that's their needs, I guess, so to say.
We own the street, but do we own any property around the street, the town?
No, but we set zoning.
How does that work with the university? I just don't know.
I'm not
Is
sure.
it the same? Maria, do you know?
Don't know. I don't know if that would count as like an educational use if the college owned like apartment housing for students, or if it would just be like a denser residential area by itself. That's a good question. I would
Yeah.
think that that would be kind of like an accessory use to a college, and that it would count as educational and therefore could probably go anywhere near the college.
Mhm.
But I could check that.
Isn't the new building that just went up within the past couple years, is that a residential? I thought that was housing
You mean the dorm that's right across from the church?
from the, yeah,
Yeah.
that is a dorm, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that, do you know, Julie, if that was supposed to help meet their quota? Like just to support the students who wanted to live on campus, or were they still,
No, I don't know.
okay,
That definitely
Kevin-
didn't come in front of the planning board when I was there.
that project did?
It didn't.
Oh, it didn't?
Mm-mm.
They might be interested in putting housing on some of their other properties around town, possibly, that are off the campus area.
Mm-hmm.
I know of a
Not really
property on Elm
commercial.
Street.
Then we'll have sewer soon,
Great.
hopefully.
Yeah, right.
I'm not
Exactly.
gonna comment about living on that property.
Have a nice trail right to the what is it, the telescope observatory.
The observatory, yep.
And I think I did ask, just kind of along this line of Wheaton, I think I did ask Mike Units if we had a select board representative for, you know,
liaison?
liaising with with Wheaton, and I think the answer was no, we do not.
So are
So-
you guys going to have that
think it's-
discussion and
I
appoint
think
somebody?
it's
or-
something we should talk about, yeah.
Yeah,
think
I
we
mean,
should.
there was one, like I said, I think Brad left and then I took it over, but COVID hit. And then I left, and to your point, if there's not one now, it's
Yeah.
good just to, you know, have conversation with the president to understand like what their goals are. Because I think that would be helpful to come back
Yep.
here.
I agree.
And you get, I mean, well, you as a board member anyway, you should be receiving the invitations for their various functions and I think they have monthly or quarterly meetings. I know I used to get them. I don't know if I got them as the representative or if I got them as a board member.
It's definitely something we need to look into, where we stand with them and
Yeah.
and appoint somebody or at least
Or
rotate
delegate.
people going to the meetings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, they are during the day, just as a heads up. Which
Okay.
makes, sometimes it makes it difficult. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you can come back to us, Kevin, if there is somebody there and maybe we can, whoever that rep's gonna be, we could just have a quick discussion on some, some
Yep.
of our ideas.
Okay.
Right. Hey, Maria, do you have time to hang on to talk about the planning up, like just a quick review of the planning
Yep.
updates? Okay, and I didn't know too, and we can talk about this offline, but like, how you wanted to engage with us, if you wanted to attend all the meetings like Paul did. Or if you wanted to do every other or something, because, and I mentioned this only because if Monday nights don't work for you and you wanted to look at something else that was helpful for your schedule, we expect Maggie to join here momentarily, so we'll be having the conversation and would certainly like to include you in that if we need to do something different with the schedule.
Thank you. I think it would be best for me if I could join every other meeting. I go to
Okay.
school as well, and school is a little crazy. They really like to assign readings, so
I'm sure.
I think every other meeting would be fantastic. That way I could still be in the loop.
Okay.
And if the liquor license review committee, it's a thing that will happen soon, then that'll be great too.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll work around your schedule. So if you're
Thank you.
attending class at night, but let us know if Mondays are not a great night for you. We have in the past, we actually were meeting the same night as select board, but we just ran into too many conflicts. And I think at that time too, because Kevin was a member, we were missing members, we didn't have quorum. So that's probably, from a town perspective. I don't know, is anybody else in a recurring meeting with the town? It's just Kevin. So yeah, it's just then personal commitments from there.
And I don't know if we just moved to Thursdays.
Yeah. Thursdays in town hall, right? Where the cleaners are and business is happening.
Yeah, we're gonna look at going back to the media center.
Mm,
So I think for January, we're kind of locked into the second floor meeting room, but
Yeah.
at our last meeting, we all said, why aren't we looking at the media center?
yeah.
And then
What's wrong with the library?
we blamed it on units. What is wrong with the library? I don't know.
I mean, only because you moved it for Thursday night, right? Because the town hall, folks in the town hall are working, right? So they could just walk
Yeah.
across the parking lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you, like, when you guys were talking, and obviously I'm not a member of the board, so I didn't pipe in, but when you guys were talking about that, all I could think about is when we were actually in the select board meeting room.
Yeah.
And you would hear everything that happened up in Maria's office and the
Mhm.
cleaners coming. And like, you'd
Mhm.
actually have to like pause some conversation just for the noise to die down. Then I'm thinking now you're gonna be sitting in that location
Mhm.
while people are coming in to like do business, which is
And-
it's just tough. We just don't have a lot of space.
Yeah, none of the spaces are great. I think just the media center is a little bit more modern and a little bit more,
Yeah.
you were able to kind of make that room a little bit better,
Yeah.
arrange it a little bit better. We're just kind of,
They got they have a studio and they got a space, and that's where I do my voiceover work. And I've been
Yeah.
doing this for 10 years.
It is nicer. I think the only thing I remember that was funny during the meetings was the fitness classes going on and the
Mhm.
music going
So you
on
hear,
that
like,
was
the-
quite loud.
the thumping, the pulsating music coming from downstairs.
Yeah, I mean, you heard the words of the music, everything.
Mhm.
But it's great because you have those folks there, right, to support it. It's not
Yeah.
like they have to shift from site to site. Well, they might still
I
have
just think
to.
I just think it'll look better, it
Yeah.
just presents better, which I know is kind of a little thing, but I think it's also just
Yeah.
makes a better impression of the town. It looks a little better. And then, of course, Ghost City is right there too. So that it
Right.
furthers, post meeting.
Well, I mean, you
socializing.
have to support local businesses,
Mhm.
right? No, I
Absolutely.
get it. I mean, I
Pretty
gotta tell you what
selfless.
though, Kevin, it's the new year versus rather than Goat City, you should be looking at 85-15.
You should be going to that class with the bummed in music.
Yeah.
The
Uh-huh.
select board,
Yeah.
Kevin. Then
Yeah.
you can go to Goat City after. That's what
Right.
Renee's trying to tell you.
Hey, I got a lot of signatures on my nomination papers from that group. So
So you owe them.
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we jump Julie, you weren't here the last meeting.
Nope.
And we talked about just the priorities. Hold on, I'm looking for my folder that's disappeared. So if you guys correct me if I'm wrong, what we talked about initially was we had, I think, 10 items where the EDC was, I'll just say assigned for lack of a better term. And one of those items we think was a mistake. So we kind of took on the 9 items from the master plan, and we've had some discussion and prioritization in those. So Maria, while we had this discussion, obviously everything is subject to change, but we took away from those 9 items, looking at both, and please like disregard the dates that are listed in here, but we looked at both the level of effort and the return on investment, and really just, from a commitment perspective, what did we think that we could do? And so we put them in a 1, 2, 3 order, but we have 4 of them because we have like a 2A and a 2B. So one of the things, and Julie, please like chime in where I'm getting things wrong, but the first one that we had prioritized was the permitting process and the guide. This was to create a user-friendly development and permitting guide to encourage new businesses and existing business growth. We actually the EDC had created 2 different versions of this. And then Paul had mentioned at some point that and Mike said that he couldn't find it. And I think Brian said the same thing, but I thought that there was a small grant that was received through the Rapid Recovery Program to assist with creating a guide. So the EDC kind of put it on hold, thinking that there was going to be an external consultant doing this. But that was one that we thought was a fairly easy level of effort, and it brought like a medium ROI to the town. So we had that one up there. The second item, we had 2A and 2B, and actually you said this. The first one was the business organization to coordinate local businesses to create a formal network within Norton. This was, you had mentioned like a Norton I think you actually said Norton Business Organization or something earlier. Like, is there a formal group that's put together right now?
The Norton Business Association is being put together. They are working on their charter right now, and their website is going to go live, I think this month. But they're working with Ann Brensley on that.
Okay, so the businesses are working together for that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they're trying to recruit businesses. It's some business owners are part of the committee. I met I think 4 members. But they are trying to grow and recruit, but because they don't have a big online presence right now and they're just getting started, it might be a little bit, but
Okay.
it's in the works.
Okay, so in your opinion, should we engage with them to provide some support for bringing them together? I don't know, like,
that's great.
that would be great. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if they have, we put together a list that I don't believe has been updated since Paul left, but for the Norton businesses. And we've been going through it to try to just reconcile some of the data. Do you know if they have they been given like your distribution list for business owners in Norton and things like that already?
They actually, there's a select board member in it too, and I am blanking right now. Trying to
Steve?
see if I have it.
Steve Hornsby?
Yes.
Okay.
So Steve was going to work with another one of the board members, and they do have that list from I think 4 or 5 years ago. They want to update it. They have kind of like raw data, and they want to separate in different categories. To my understanding, something like restaurants and
Sure.
beauty and services. So they were going to start cleaning that up because they want that to be on the website. They want the category stuff to want it easily found, and they are thinking that maybe those members who are, if you join the Norton Business Association, then your name will be like up first, or it'll be bolded, or you'll get more resources. But they want to they're trying to find incentives for membership other than just connecting you to other business owners, maybe trying to find, give them more technical assistance or things like it. But if you have the list of businesses, I think if you could join efforts with them, that would be amazing, because they did say it was a very daunting task because there was a lot there.
Yeah, we had EDC members. We parsed it up into like 250 records for each member. And we had, I think, like a couple extra people in the community helping with that. So it's a pretty big list. We've been through it and have looked at, like, it definitely needs refining. I know Maggie might have something to weigh in. I think that she just unmuted herself, but I definitely think it would be advantageous for them. The last time that we had talked to units about this, he said Steve was involved in it, but he was only looking for a small portion, like the VCC portion to create a business group. Do you know if it has now branched across Norton? Because our recommendation was that it should include all of Norton, not just a section of Norton.
I think it's all of Norton now
Okay.
because membership is something they're very strongly trying to attract,
Okay,
casting
we
a
can-
wider net.
sure. We can certainly reach out to them. Would you mind just sending the contacts that you have, like those who are on the committee or the
Yeah,
board of
course.
it? And then Kevin, can I ask you as the select board representative kind of liaison, can you reach out to that group, including Steve, and see about joining forces and if it would be helpful for us to share the data that we have now? You're muted, but I read you saying sure.
You're a good lip reader. Yes, I said sure.
I'm getting better with this whole virtual. Well, you know, it's unit says all the time. He's like, you have to say, Mike, you're muted, Mike, you're muted. So you get used to reading the lips. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kevin. And then, so that was our 2A, and then 2B was the rail trail. And this was, I have a note here. It says, reach out to Chris. But Chris moved out of Norton, so maybe this note is old. But the portion, the description where with this was to help local businesses capitalize on Norton's recreation and nature areas such as the bike trail. So even though it's called the rail trail, it expanded a little bit farther. So that was our 2B item. And then number 3 was the village center, the VCC, to update the zoning to encourage more compact development that fronts the street, particularly around Norton's Village Center. And that one that was the only one where we had the LOE being hard. Because I think that there are many, anything with zoning tends to be challenging, and there are many facets to it. I don't have an ROI listed, but I think in our discussion, and team, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was that the work, even if done for a small area, could be leveraged across Norton. So really the ROI was a little bit greater than, just the scope of the VCC. Is that correct? Is my
Yeah, and I
memory
think
correct?
that touches to Maria's point too about, like zoning code cleanup, like those just general things of, looking at how we can improve upon what we have and make it clearer and more concise and easy for businesses who come in to understand, how we're driving that zoning picture. Because I think it can be very, very confusing for applicants.
Yeah.
Right. I agree. And the odd one with this too is we didn't have any partners listed on this, but we kind of wrote in Maria, yourself, like your position, and then the planning board, because I think this would be a collaboration effort. Like we wouldn't do this without input from either you or the planning board.
Yeah, and I don't think, Renee, I can't see that one doing like Maria, like when I was on the planning board, Alan and myself and a representative from the Zoning Board of Appeals had like a zoning subcommittee. So before we would do any type of substantial zoning change, we had a subcommittee that would work on it and kind of like flush it out and just have like really good, honestly, candid conversations about what was being proposed, how we could make it clearer. And I think that worked really well because it was a good kind of flushed out product before it got to the planning board. We did that with Renee and the EDC before the marijuana legislation came to the planning board. So it might be something we want to think about in this instance, and maybe, including a member of the EDC on that subcommittee. Sometimes when you have a little bit of a smaller group, you can work a little bit quicker and have, I think, a little bit more open, honest conversation than, kind of worrying about being in a larger forum. So that seemed to work really, really well for us in the past.
Good to know.
And Renee, I think your note for about Chris, was that Chris Zahner? Was
For
there
the rail
something-
trail?
Yeah, was it?
thought-
Weren't we talking about something with like
You're right. It was the Board of Health and the mobile.
Food trucks.
yes,
Mobile food
the food trucks.
Okay,
That's
let
right.
me put the Z, because I was thinking Chris K, who Okay,
Chris Key,
Group effort, guys, group effort.
Chris Key.
totally. That's on our future agenda too. So we should talk about that before we break here when we want to get when we want to have a discussion with Chris.
Yep.
Okay, so the other things that were on here, just to kind of go through the list, was one of the items here was the zoning overlays, and this is actually where we put like pharmaceutical and life science. And we did actually list Serpent on this, but you're doing this, you're doing that now as part of the grants, right?
Yes,
Okay, so, and this was one we had high level of effort and high return on investment. I think this is a great one. Has anybody heard anything about the property that the state owns at 495 and 123? Like, have there been any potential buyers? Because that property, Paul talked about specifically, could that be a life science designated area or?
Well, did MassDOT put it out for auction? That's the first step, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So they can't just sell the property, they have to auction it.
yeah.
So that would be the first step, is I think, we had quite a number of meetings with them, right? And we did town meeting too, right?
We did, and I think that I remember the discussion. I can't remember if it came to EDC or if it was just a select board. It may have been both, but the discussion, and I thought there was a hurdle in, there's a particular area in the back that needed to be like, something about the percentage of the property that needed to be like repositioned or reclassified or excluded from what they were going to sell, that had to be open space. That had to
Yeah,
remain
there
open
was
space.
like a conservation something
Yeah.
easement or something on the back portion of the property.
So maybe it's still with Concom. I don't know. Kevin, have you heard, has this topic been in front of you?
No,
So-
we have not had this topic.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't
I
think
don't
it
think we've
ever-
talked about
I
it at
don't-
all.
I don't think it ever went to Concom because I don't think it's like an actual plan.
oh,
You know
Maybe
what I
not.
mean, Renee? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a development plan, right? Like, we looked at it from a purpose and zone perspective. That's
mhm.
why planning board got involved, but it very much was like, okay, MassDOT, yes, we'd love to, like, as a municipality, right? We'd love to have you seek other ownership from that, 'cause it's a large portion of land. It's right off 495. It's got great access. It could be redeveloped as a million things. All you're using is that front portion for, salt storage and maintenance operations. So
Mhm.
it would be, I'm kind of thinking, like, I think we left it in MassDOT's hands. And I think the first
Okay.
step with them would be they'd have to all agree
Auction.
that they would want to auction it off from a property perspective, that they did have to deem it surplus and then auction it.
Mhm.
And then lowest bidder wins. So that's the one kind of risky part, right? You're not necessarily getting to pick who the owner is. You kind of roll the dice a little bit.
What was that, Maria?
I think highest bidder wins because they're.
Highest bidder, yeah, sorry, not lowest bidder.
I was like, lowest bidder, I'll bid on it.
Long day. I was gonna say, I got a penny to give.
I
$1.
know, sorry, no, Maria's right, highest bidder, I know, sorry, I'm getting, normally it's lowest bidder wins, I'm in construction land. No, Maria's right, highest bidder, right, so whoever's gonna give him the most money, so you kind of, you're taking what you get either way.
Sure.
I happen to
Yeah.
have a former Concom member, just happens to be in my house right now. And she said that she does not recall that coming in front of Concom.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, I think because it wasn't technically a project.
yeah,
it's something they have to figure out, right, on their own. I mean, and so Maria, just for background, that was recently rezoned to industrial. And it's a
Okay.
property, that literally is, if you know where Blue Star is, it's across the street, so it's at the same 495, 123
it.
interchange there. But it's a nice property and a nice piece of property there, but they do have that salt area. The town signed over is probably not the right word, but the select board approved I think a change in ownership on another little parcel that's in that section too. So that's part of it. So it's been kind of moving forward. I don't know what the current status is, but that's something, it's on our list actually to apply the marijuana overlay to it now that it's been rezoned as industrial, because it's, a decent property to do that. And we haven't done that yet. I wish, and Paul and I talked about this when the zoning happened to industrial. I I wish that it was a part of it, but I can't remember the reasons why, but it made sense to not have the overlay as part of that, to apply it at the time, but we'll have to think about that for a future meeting to get that into the marijuana overlay district too. So anyway, certainly, you know, it's here on the list. Certainly let us know if there's anything that we can assist with on that, or if it's just, you know, informational and awareness. The next one was the sewer expansion, again, something that we talked about. And we put both on this, right? High level of effort and high return on investment. This actually was listed as, for the implementation priority, it was flexible and high, but it did say by the end of 2022 to begin conversations between the planning director and the Water and Sewer Commission. So as Julie discussed, and I mean, I don't know what the rest of the commission thinks, but you know, I'm certainly flexible in the priority. I think we were just looking at what's the immediate that we can start working on, and maybe we do a swap for the sewer expansion with the VCC work, right? The VCC work can continue, but not full steam. But that's up to the group. I mean, now that you're in place, Maria, and you know, we have the conversation of what you're looking at for Mass Works, as well as like, you know, where do we want to focus long term for economic development. I think that this might be something that we want to put in a higher priority, but I'll let the group, Julie and Kevin and Steve, I'll let you guys voice your opinion on that.
I mean, sewer is probably priority in our town. Like, nothing is gonna happen around town without sewer happening in that neighborhood. And whatever business we might imagine, whatever type of neighborhood, whatever zone's gonna be there, is gonna be extremely eliminated if the infrastructure is not there. So to me, that the return on investment is the highest, basically.
I know, I talked with Frank a little bit on sewer expansion in general, and he did say that they kind of hit a snag because they had that 5-year mandate for people to connect to sewer in front of their houses, and now it's pushed to 7. So that's kind of hurt their timeline because they're an enterprise fund. They need to fund everything through their own fees and revenues and not funded by the town. So that puts a dampen on how fast they can expand. But I think it'll be really advantageous to meet, maybe not just with Frank, but maybe the sewer commissioners. They would ultimately be the biggest authority there, and we can plan ahead and maybe see what are the constraints. A lot of them might be worth overcoming, even if they're high effort, or you know, maybe some low hanging fruit to get the ball rolling. So we can certainly talk about that, but I think a joint meeting would really be the way to go.
I think so too. I agree with that. I think the discussion on the 7-year, it'd be interesting to know how many houses that they're expecting to get these fees from, because I know some are paid, and that section on Plain Street is not very long. And it's only one side of the street. So to me, I didn't think that it was a significant amount of money that would delay, you know, any long-term plans. You know, I could see some of the short-term stuff maybe. But it's, what is it, like 15,000 to the town essentially? And I don't know, Julie, what would you say from like Pine up to South Washington? Actually, not even South Washington, right? LGN on the one side of the street, like,
Oh God, like maybe 8.
yeah, I didn't think that there were many houses. So it'd be interesting to know kind of what dollar amount that is and how it impacted projects. Maybe that's kind of, you know, let us understand where the projects that they had already planned were there.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely put them on a list. And then we'll just make sure, Maria, it's a meeting. I'll be able to talk here that you're able to attend, of course.
Thank you.
So I can coordinate with you.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk to Frank first? I mean, I know I said I was going to get you the names of the others that attended that meeting. I still do that as a number one.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I'm sure Frank will remember too and put us in contact if not.
Yeah, he has, I can tell you, much better memory than I do.
You can just reach out to him and
Okay.
I'm sure he'll rope in anyone that needs to be roped in, so.
Perfect. The other, I'll just mention the last 3 quickly. One was attract businesses based on community priorities such as grocery stores, life sciences. There was an item on here. It said by 2024, engage EDC to complete a feasibility study of Greatwood Marketplace site. We just put a note on that to place it on hold as the 40B goes up. because I think that's gonna change once that property, that development's done and in place. We also identified that as for us, a fairly high level of effort, with a low to medium, ROI. And then there was, every time I see this, I stumble over it, placemaking and wayfinding, which was just talk about a placemaking strategy for the village center, including signage. We listed that. I had some notes on here for the business organization, to consider that, as well as our discussion on the neighborhood organizations. Julie, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I think that you guys had some discussion, right, as part of the master plan session, but this one was outlining, it says by the end of 2023, update the Norton Village vision plan and incorporate a placemaking element to integrate the goals and strategies related to arts and culture, downtown activities, as well as public infrastructure.
Yeah, so that one was more like when we were talking about the VCC of including things like have public seating, have similar light fixtures, have similar landscape elements, so that kind of as you entered the center of town, right, Maria, it had like a look of commonality across the frontages, especially.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, you arrived in like a place, like
Yes.
a destination, right? So that was the whole thought of the beginning of the VCC, was like a starting point of like, what's our downtown core and how can we move forward, and one, increasing the density, but also having some of these elements of like placemaking, of public realm, amenities, you know, those type of things. As you drive through town right now, it's very disjointed, right? Like different frontages, different parking schemes, different looks and feels. So that was kind of where we were going with that. And that the master plan kind of takes it a little bit further than that. And to kind of go back to Bog Iron and our conversation with Brian, you know, he was even saying like, hey, it'd be great if we all just planted like the same flower in the spring, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge, you know, financial commitment to have something that kind of gives you that sense of place. So even, you know, now with the flags that are out, you know, with the veterans, like, I think that actually makes you feel like you arrived in the downtown. It was a very small gesture that was part of a totally different effort, but it at least starts that kind of sense of place. And that really was that kind of like goal of the master plan, of really like, who are we? What do we want to look like? You know, so that people come, they know like, oh, this is where we are. We're in Norton. So it just to give it that, you know, that placemaking, that wayfinding, maybe similar size signage or similar fonts used on signage, you know, things like that.
Yeah. I think we might have gotten a grant for that as well.
What?
I'm starting to follow through with the grants now that the fires have been put out on the permitting side. But I will check with Mike. I don't know how much it is. I don't think it was like crazy amounts, but you don't need much money for things like that. It's just like,
Right.
having said the same planters, like that's huge.
So just little things like that was just the start, you know,
Yes.
of just kind of making that sense of place. Because I think
Yeah.
like there's all these, you know, I think Steve's always been really good at this. There's all these like little nuggets and these little gems, right? Like that
Yeah.
town has, and it's like, okay, how do we like pull
Link
those
them.
together? How do we make that sense of going from one place to another, kind of, you know, have that connection point? And that was part of it.
Yeah, I think I'll check. I was just given like a series of folders, so I'll go I'll go through them, and I'll send you an email with, you know, like I said, I've been writing down all the things I need to follow up on, and I'll let you know where we're at with that point. Because if so, then we can start choosing the consultant and getting
Yeah.
ready to move forward with
Yeah.
that.
Don't
Sure,
worry, we know
sure.
you just started. It's okay. I
Yeah.
know it's a lot.
I'll get there.
And
It is.
I can appreciate the permit fires, trust me.
But that's a good one too, that if we meet with the NBA, right, that we can have some,
Yeah,
I don't like that acronym. I don't like use, I don't like it in my
Kevin, come
sentence.
on, you had a running list. You had a running list, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Business Owners Association, the Business Owners Organization of Norton, Boone
Yeah, Boone and Noob.
or
And
Noob. The
Apparently
Norton.
they didn't get your
Noob.
message.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
they're the NBA.
yeah.
The NBA is an easy acronym, but it's to say it, I feel like I'm talking about basketball.
It's taken.
yeah,
But yeah, if there is a grant, right, to help on that, and we can have some discussions with them and like some of the partners that were listed were, obviously Maria, you like community groups, business stakeholders, Wheaton College, GATRA was on here.
Mhm.
Right, so that would be a good discussion to go to those groups and say, hey, we do have funding, like, how do we, let's think about how we could use this, and then we come back and
Yeah.
kind of flush that out. Okay, and then the last one was a town gown. This one again had the outstanding, who's our contact at Wheaton.
Yep,
To work with.
I'll jump on that one.
Okay, I mean, it's just to know who it is right now, because we listed this as medium level of effort, high return on investment, but to work with Wheaton and the surrounding neighborhoods to reinforce a strong town gown relationship.
Yep.
And so again, this year it was to engage Wheaton College representatives to establish this advisory committee. But it has a select board, town manager, Wheaton, school superintendent, and then community and business stakeholders.
Listen, I think Steve just did that in business updates. He already liaison for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I talked to them about signage too. I mean, not that they're upper on anything. They gave me a couple contacts, but in general, getting their opinion on how it's running from a lower perspective is kind of nice. But the signage
Yeah.
of what events are happening at Wheaton College is non-existent. If you're not paying attention for it, you don't know what's happening there,
Mhm.
and it kind of feels like it's an alternative world from the town.
Yeah,
Instead of
that's a
part
good
of it.
point. That's a
Yep.
really good point. Yeah.
And I guess
Agreed.
the question is that intentional,
I don't know.
right? Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, so those, that's our 9 items, so.
Okay.
I think we're good. So do we want to just, for discussion purposes, do we want to move Village Center to 4 and put that sewer expansion as 3? Now that we have a little traction there,
I think,
just
I think,
kind of in our priority list?
yeah, I think even just like information gathering on the sewer
Yeah,
is important. Like it just, I feel like I hear 10 different stories when you talk to 10 different people about,
right.
sewer tie-ins and why it costs so much and how come it costs more than other towns. And I can't seem to pierce through the noise to get to like what the real story is.
Yeah,
So I think gathering
I think-
information on that is the first start. Is the place to start, and then we can start talking about, is there opportunity for for expansion? So
Well,
I think
and-
one of
and
the
I-
biggest things is seeing it on a map and actually figuring out how many properties would be affected by a sewer expansion.
mhm,
What
right,
we might see something on a main road where it's going, but if that road passes through, how many back roads does that open up an opportunity for also?
mhm,
yeah. Yeah, the map, I think having the visual is huge, especially for us to plan out, like, how does it bleed into the economic development? And, in our conversation too, to map against when we have conversations with people and they're like, oh, I looked at this property and it's wet. And then I'd have to put, septic in and it's $2 million, like to map that to say, look, this is a property that is going to be very limited to the type of business that can go there because of not having, sewer. And some of them are pretty big properties. Okay, so that's good. And I think to your point, like, I think it ties in, Kevin, to your point of, understanding fees, like when we think about the permitting process in the guide, because that has been feedback for a lot of people, is that the tie-in fees are astronomical in Norton. So why is that? Because I think that'll help us and Maria, you in conversation with people who are interested in coming to Norton. If they've heard that already and they're like, well, tell me about this because I've heard that your fees are super high. And
mhm.
and are there, and I know we talked about this with the team, with Frank's team, to say, are there opportunities to offer discounts or like how do we make it advantageous to bring businesses in town, to tie
Like,
in where it
Again,
is.
if you can
Yep.
put a business with apartments on a property, there's a lot more encouragement for somebody to actually put the investment in. 15 grand is not that much for a business with apartments. It's a lot for a single family.
Right. Well, remember, it's 30 grand for a home. Typically 15 is what it's around 15 what you're paying to the town, but it's also around 15 what you're going to pay to have your house from septic to sewer, right? So it's
Sure.
30 grand for a homeowner is huge,
Mhm,
especially if you just replaced your septic tank recently and paid, probably 20 grand to do it.
right.
If there's
That's-
any way we could amend whatever bylaws so that we could phase out still standing septic, that'd be fantastic. If somebody's got 10 or 15, maybe even 20 years left on their leaching field, there's no reason they should have to rip that up right away.
Well, that's, that's always been part of the discussion.
Yeah.
You know, why are we putting something in, telling people within 5 years you have to do this, right? Which is why it was extended to 7.
And I think that's right. And that's where you get into the sewer, the water sewer argument, their point about, well, if we're going to put all this money into expansion, but then we're not getting any money to fund it.
Yeah.
People have to play a little bit longer of a game. We got to stop thinking of a 1 or 2 year or even 5-year plan and look at a 10 or 15 or 20-year development. What it's going to be in 50 years. Nobody's upset that they have sewer now. They might have been at the time. Nobody's upset that they have power in their neighborhood now or a water line.
Right.
But at one point, somebody in their neighborhood didn't want it to be built. So people got to get on board with infrastructure.
Again, I think the difference is, and I'll just, I'll kind of relay my opinion on the Plain Street thing, is it was very limited in scope, right? The project itself didn't allow for expansion of that line. Like now there's a flow issue. So if you want to expand beyond LGN, we have to put in additional money for infrastructure. It was one side of the street. It's just the side of the street that goes from the point down to LGN, right? So it served a purpose for the town to get the school off of sewer, but we forced the residents to do something that, and I'm with you, Steve, like my argument's always been, look, put it in there that when their septic fails or there's a change in ownership, right, that they have to tie into sewer, but to do it within a 5-year time because the need was the school, not specifically the residents there. I didn't think that was a fair process. And I know Mike has talked about rather than doing it the way that we were doing it, it was some sort of betterment or I can't remember like exactly how it was, but it seemed more appropriate for a homeowner and a little bit, less financially restricting.
Right.
I
So-
can say, as somebody who's struggled, if I was faced with $30,000 out of my question, I would
Right.
be at the town hall voting against that
Mhm.
for
Right.
sure. It's so hard to do. If it was going to tank my own family,
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Well, and that's the thing is like I put myself in the position of people who are in there, right? Like 30,000 is it's not small change. And even though like you had an opportunity to get like a low interest loan for 15 grand, like that's still
Nobody
money
does.
that's coming out of your pocket.
There's so many people that don't. I mean, not that many years ago, 10 years ago, I was making maybe 18 grand a year. There's no way I could handle that.
Yeah.
No way.
So that's
And
the
there's
thing.
a lot of people in town working for that wage that will never be able to do that. Not in 5 years, not in 7 years. That's a huge burden.
Well, and that's why it's always like where we can, where we do have a big development going in that they can afford to put that within the cost of the project, like
Mhm.
that should be our ultimate goal.
Yeah, and
It's
I
not
think
gonna
as-
hit everybody, but little by little, we'll continue to expand the system. I'm sorry.
And it's critical for economic development. So it's part of the charge of this commission, right? To explore and encourage economic development in the town. And I think what the sewer issue is a linchpin for development. So
Yeah.
until we address that, a lot of the stuff we talk about honestly is academic because it's not going to matter if we
Right.
can't
Absolutely.
if we can't deal with this sewer problem. So
Yeah, and it, again, it goes back to, we're really limiting it because we're not gonna get certain businesses that, have the requirements where they're
Right.
gonna need something more than just a septic, or where it is, I mean, like,
Yeah.
think of any company spending, $1 million on just a septic system.
right.
That's absurd right now when you can go the next town and just, have a tie-in that's even cheaper than our tie-in. So
Right.
those are things that we have to consider and have discussions with the group. What is the change to their structure for the water and sewer department? When is that taking place?
Not for 2 years. I think 2024.
Okay, I just didn't know if this is like the time to have Mike included in the discussion or not, but it seems like not right now. Okay, so we have some follow-ups we'll take away. I know we are past time. It's 9:10 and people need to do their things at home and get to bed. So are there any other topics right now that you guys wanted to discuss, or I will entertain? I've lost my sheet. Hold on. I can't entertain anything until I find my agenda.
Did
Sorry.
you guys have any interest in seeing my zoning chart here, or did you guys want to review it like email wise and talk about it again another time?
Yeah, let's-
Why don't we
let's
put
do
it on the
that.
future?
Yeah, because I saw you emailed it, so let me take a look at it.
Awesome.
Okay,
I
what
want
is,
to
what,
take some time to really digest that, Renee. Can we put some time on the agenda sometime to really like let Steve walk us through that?
Yeah.
too?
Yeah.
do you, do you want to do it on the 23rd?
Sure.
Steve,
Sure.
does that work for you? Because I would love for you to kind of just like, yeah, walk us through it.
Yeah, I'll take a half an hour, whatever everybody's questions. I'll really try to explain it all more than like in a 5-minute session.
Okay,
Okay.
Steve, give me a topic name for that.
I don't know. I mean, I would just go with zoning, I guess. But I mean, like,
Zoning review, I'm fine
yeah,
with that.
sure.
Steve, yeah,
Steve a bit.
Steve's zoning review, REVUE. Yeah.
If I could wave a magic wand.
Well, and I think this goes to the, you know, the master plan of like the overlay districts, right, Steve? I mean, some of that is kind of a thought, some of your thoughts on overlay, and right?
I mean, explicitly zoning and overlays are in the master plan. Explicitly talking about
The best.
small
Safety.
lots, explicitly talking about apartments, multifamilies. And it addresses all of that. The MBTA stuff that we're on the line for, we have to get that done this year. That's involved in this.
I'll actually be
so, yeah.
talking with Serpent on that, Wednesday.
Okay.
On which part?
The MBTA, so
Okay,
I'll have some updates there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think we can absolutely do it without it being scary. I think the word sounds scary. What the outcome is gonna be really quaint, actually.
Yeah,
Steve, do you prefer that we wait for Maria to be at a meeting, or you want to go through this with the EDC in a not edited version, and then we can kind of help to put things
I'm-
in priority and discuss it with Maria at the next meeting? You tell me.
I'm more than fine either way. It's gonna be discussed over and over again, so I don't mind saying it first to you guys, and then we can talk about any changes, or everybody can have something ready for Maria if anybody wants to change anything or discuss whether we should, what's able to be done.
Maria, is that okay with you?
yeah, I can watch the meeting after, or, you know, that section, so I'm informed, and then we can hit the ground running next month.
When's the next, where,
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna be virtual next time? I guess that's
What
That's a
everybody
question.
feels comfortable. I'm cool no matter what everybody's doing.
Yeah, if somebody can't make it and has to do virtual, then I think we can do virtual, but if we can make it in person, I'd love to see everybody.
okay.
that's right.
So
Yeah,
I
Maria,
miss
if
you
we
guys.
aren't virtual and we don't have a recording, because we typically, like, our meetings are only recorded when we do like the Zoom sessions. We'll get a good summary and overview for you, and then be able to walk you through it, okay?
That's perfect,
But
thank
that
you.
way we could get a bit organized internally if needed.
Before the next meeting or before I introduce it or anything, if you have any questions for me, Maria specifically, feel free to email me about it or whatever. I'll send you a copy tonight of what I've
That'd be
been working
great.
on. And it's a draft. I know I don't feel ever confident that it's finished, but it's what I've been working on.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, and I appreciate it.
Sure.
It can never be finished, Steve. If it's finished,
No,
then
it
we
doesn't.
haven't done our job, right? Okay, so I have zoning review for the next meeting. I do have the next meeting as the 23rd. Is that still good for folks?
That's
Uh,
fine with me.
Okay, and my hope is that we'll be a full commission at that time. Fingers crossed. I haven't seen the agenda for the board this week, but
It was not on the agenda, on the draft agenda that we received today, but I emailed the chair and Mr. Units and asked for that to be on the agenda for this Thursday's meeting.
okay, fantastic.
When's the
Fingers
next,
crossed.
Thank you.
Kevin, Maggie's champion.
Kevin, when's the select board meeting? This Thursday
Thursday, yep.
at the library?
No, it's Thursday at the town hall,
Town,
in the
oh,
second floor meeting.
You just made his day. Okay,
So- All right, so
Perfect.
hopefully, yeah, so hopefully Maggie will, I have Renee's email, and I just forwarded that over tonight because I saw that it wasn't on the agenda, so I asked for it. So hopefully that'll be on there.
Great. And then I can make the Boone logo.
I love it.
It's gonna look like a Hooters shirt.
Yeah. Well, people often refer to Norton as the Boonies too, I've been told. So
Right, yeah, yeah.
I'm telling you,
Play on words, play on words. I like it, Maggie.
it's got staying power.
for the town businesses, I don't know, maybe I should wait to see what Steve presents first, just because I went through and organized it all by street name and then by number and highlighted the duplicates. I haven't identified my color coding yet, but it's color coded by like 2, 3, 4, and then 5 or more. Some of those are duplicates of the exact same address, business, et cetera. And then others are like the same building. So it's like apartment numbers or suite numbers. So what I think I want to do is take an overlay map and then pin drop them onto the map and then kind of drive around town and be like, all right, that's a building with multiple businesses, and then that's a building, or that's a business with just, it's listed in all of the databases. So we have 8 copies of them.
Okay.
But if there's someone else working on it like that too, I can share the spreadsheet. I took out all of the ones and put them in a separate sheet that were either not in Norton, as noted all the way on the right side column, or if the address itself, it wasn't in Norton, I just kind of removed them. But it's for the most part organized as far as like the, you know, where they are. I'd like to see it on a map and then start mapping out, like visiting those businesses and seeing if we wanted to break them off in sections so that people can do like an area or whatever, but.
Okay. So Maria,
I
she's
can-
talking about, under our planning updates, we had, I mentioned the database that we had of all the businesses that the EDC put together. She's talking about that list. So
Yeah.
she's been fixing that list. So why don't we plan for the zoning review, and then I'm gonna bump up that planning update for the local business outreach so we can go through the database for the next agenda. Maggie, does that sound good for the
Yeah.
next meeting?
Definitely. Thank you.
I can
Okay.
coordinate with Maggie at some point off of our normal hours about mapping that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure. Maria, are there any, and you may not know this, so you might have to ask, but are there any tools that the town has at its disposal that we'd be able to use for any mapping efforts?
I have been putting together a GIS database using QGIS. So I'm slowly building on it, but I have the base zoning and a couple overlays. Some of them I had to digitize myself. Some of them I found old files and I've just been updating them. So I think if I can get a list of addresses, I might be able to geocode them.
Okay, so is that running off of the GIS site now that Norton has?
No, this is internal. The online site is complicated. We only update it once a year and they're not very efficient, I want to say, but that's what I've heard. I haven't dealt with them yet. And they charge a lot for every update. So most of what we have right now is internal, but I will be able to make, you know, PDFs, swimming in like different versions, like different areas of town, or we could probably get it uploaded as a layer once it's done. I think the most expensive thing is to get it digitized, but if I can do that myself, then that would be good.
Yeah. Okay, can you just shoot to us like whatever how you need the data to do that? Like, do you need the like the number of the street in a separate column than the street name itself? Like, if there are any specific criteria for you to take information and upload it, can you just share that with us? And then that way we can, after we go through the database, if we need to reconcile the data or put it in some other format, we can do that.
Perfect. I'll check tomorrow. This is a new software for me. I usually use ArcMap and this is the free version of it. So I will double check and I'll reach out to you with that.
Okay, that'd be great. So Steve and
You
Maggie,
said it was-
that might help us.
QGIS,
Yeah, QGIS.
and that's open
Is-
source?
Yes. And I can share, I have a Google Drive with all the layers I have so far. I was able to
Okay.
even get like contours from satellite data. Like the software is amazing. I've been really pleased with it. It's just a matter of building up what we have and getting it
Mhm.
updated.
You
So
can't tell, but Steve is really excited about what you just said.
Mhm.
I'm nerding out really hard, yeah.
See, I have a minor in GIS, so this is like, it was super exciting to be able to like, have like full access to everything that you have to pay thousands of dollars to do in ArcMap, so I'm still so happy.
I only use open source software. I don't buy anything.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you guys need to get some coffee sometime too.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then if I think Renee, I think Maria, you were going to email the NDA or the Norton Business MBA.
NBA, yeah,
MBA, contact information to Renee. If you could email that to me too.
absolutely.
And then I guess if it's okay with everyone, I'll just reach out to that group as a member of the EDC and just say, hey, we're interested in, we might be duplicating efforts here. Like, it might be good for us to just all get together and see if there's a way that we can support you in putting
Yeah.
together a Norton Business Association. Does that sound like a
Yeah.
good approach? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what we dubbed you with. So, yeah, I mean, feel free to let them know that, over the past year and a half that the EDC worked on putting this database together, and we're cleaning it up now, but we'll be happy to share and collaborate. So, and Maria, the database, we did these efforts to provide it to Paul to use and update. So, the expectation is that it would reside somewhere in your realm of things, and then we would help support it. So we'll have to talk just long-term about how we would do updates. I think it was just given to Paul and then no updates were made. So we kind of just took it back to make the updates in his absence, and we'll clean it up a bit. But the expectation is that it's for you, to help you. And then as businesses come in, like, we add those businesses to it, and et cetera.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. The more data we can have, the better. So
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Great.
We can
Awesome.
get it to a good point, then, I think between the two efforts that are going on simultaneously, I think we could probably get it to a really, really good point. I mean, what Maggie just described, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Based on where we left off the last time we kind of looked at it. And then,
Yep.
if we can collaborate, to your point, Kevin, like with what Steve and that group's doing. If
Yeah.
we join forces on a couple of these topics we discussed tonight, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
Agreed.
definitely. Cool. Okay. So with that, on that high note, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Okay, need a roll call vote. Kevin,
Yes.
Steve,
yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I think that's it, right? And I too am a yes. I can't read my own handwriting. So we are adjourned as of 9:24, and thank you everyone for your time tonight, your discussion, and Maria, we look forward to continuing our partnership with you.
I'm so excited.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And everybody, and I will see you all.